This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto was raised by Minato. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
Almost a month has passed since Naruto and Gamabunta spoke. Sasuke and Naruto alternated as team leaders as Naruto completed a few more missions during this time. Along with continuing to see Ino and train in his spare time, he has gotten close to Gamakichi, who no longer visits his house very often. Jiraiya ducked Naruto's kick and then kicked him into a tree, saying, "Is that all you got? Come on, I could beat you in my sleep." Jiraiya kicked Naruto again, but this time Naruto ducked under the kick and went in for an uppercut to Jiraiya's jaw. Naruto got back up and ran at Jiraiya. He grabbed Naruto's wrist and threw him flying at another tree, but Jiraiya just leaned back and avoided the blow. As a dense mist engulfed the area, Naruto said, "Water style, hidden in the mist jutsu," while flashing through some hand seals. To protect himself, Naruto shaped a Rasengan and crashed through the tree. He heard the words, "That's better, but a simple trick like this isn't going to fool the legendary Toad Sannin." As he landed on the other side, he then got through some hand seals and exclaimed, "Wind style, great breakthrough." The mist was blown away by a strong gust of wind. He hardly had time to avoid a flying Rasengan once the mist dissipated. He heard a poof behind him and turned just in time to see another Rasengan approaching him as he began to go through some more hand seals. To get away from it, he leapt into the air. When he encountered the notorious three-pronged kunai of the Flying Thunder God technique, he realized he had erred. Naruto performed some hand seals and slammed the thumb side of his hands together, saying, "Lightning style, Raging Demon's Fist." Before he could react, a red flash appeared in front of him, and he punched him toward the ground. In the shape of two fists, a massive mass of red lightning flew in Jiraiya's direction. "Oh shish. I'm done for if that hits me." As he sank into the ground and swiftly performed some hand seals of his own, he thought. Jiraiya was just standing when Naruto's attack struck the ground, resulting in a huge explosion and lightning that arched across the yard. A pair of hands emerged from the earth and seized Naruto's ankles as he fell back to the ground. Naruto heard footsteps approaching from behind and struggled to break free. He glanced over and saw Jiraiya running and holding a Rasengan. Naruto was shocked when nothing happened as he prepared for impact. When he turned around once more, Jiraiya's Rasengan was standing inches from his face. As Jiraiya's Rasengan vanished and the hands that had Naruto in them vanished in a puff of smoke, he grinned broadly and declared, "I win. You're pretty good but still not sounding good yet. Give it a while, no doubt you'll be better than me one day." Naruto grinned and said, "Yay, one of these days, if I keep working hard at least." "A week ago, sir, we have reports that Danzo is on the move again. He has possibly been meeting with Hiyashi Hyuga in secret for some time now. What are your orders?" "Keep an eye on Danzo for the time being and see if you can find out anything more. If he's meeting with the Hyuga, he's probably up to something big, so don't let him catch us in the act." 1 month prior to the present, Danzo said, "Ah, Hyuga-san, come in, have a seat." Danzo-san, "Thank you. How are you?" Hiyashi said. "So, Hiyashi, I have a business proposal for you," Danzo said, grinning. "I am well. I'm listening. If you were in charge of the village council, how would you respond? However, the Uchiha have occupied that role ever since the village was established. You let me handle that. I only ask that you support your clan." "What kind of support?" "I plan to depose the Hokage. I will give you a permanent position as the head of my new council if you consent to have your clan support me." "Are you serious?" "Yes, Hiyashi. During the 3rd and 4th Hokage's reigns, Konoha has become the laughing stock of the elemental nations. Everyone would fear us if I were to take charge. As it should be, we would be the greatest of all the nations. Additionally, you would be my second in command, Hiyashi." "Danzo, you drive a hard bargain. I'll give it some thought." As Hiyashi rose and left the room, Danzo said, "Of course, take your time." He grinned to himself after Hiyashi left, thinking, "I'm so close now I can taste it. I've got that tool Hiyashi in the palm of my hand. With the Hyuga backing me, I will be unstoppable." Now, an Anbu entered Minato's office and he said, "Report." "Sir, we have confirmed from a leak in the Hyuga house that Hiyashi has indeed been meeting with Danzo, and has been trying to talk the Hyuga council in joining an under-the-table alliance." "I understand. Are you aware of their intentions?" "Not at this time, sir." "All right. Dismissed." Anbu shunned away as Minato uttered the words, "Kakashi, Itachi." Itachi and Kakashi were immediately in front of him. "Yes, Hokage. Sama." They both said it at once. "Is your team prepared for an SS rank mission, in your opinion?" Sir, what is the purpose? Itachi said. To assassinate Danzo. Sir, I believe we are for the most part, but there is one thing I would ask of you first. What is it? After his fight with Jiraiya, Naruto was relaxing at the kitchen table, sipping some juice, when he felt his father calling. He hurriedly finished his juice and teleported to the Hokage's office, where he was met by his father, Kakashi, and Itachi. Minato said, Naruto, we need your opinion on something. Yes, what is it? What are your thoughts on having a Sharingan eye implanted? Itachi said. I don't have a problem with it. I consider Kakashi very close to me, Naruto replied. No, Naruto, he's asking how you would feel if you were given a Sharingan, Kakashi said. Oh, you mean that someone like you, Kakashi, is getting a transplant? Naruto said. Yes, Naruto. Itachi stated, we believe it would significantly enhance your skills, and we also have a mission in mind that you might need it on. How do you feel about this, Dad? Naruto said, turning to face his father. I concur with Itachi, son. It would be an honor for you to be the second non-Uchiha person to have a Sharingan. But I'll support your decision no matter what. I trust you, Dad, if you agree with them, I'll do it, Naruto said. As he grabbed Itachi's shoulder and vanished in a flash of yellow, Minato said, okay, let's go to the hospital so we can get it in and let it heal properly in time for the mission. Naruto, bring Kakashi please. After placing a hand on Kakashi's shoulder, Naruto vanished as well. Tsunade, Shizune, and Jiraiya all stood waiting for them as the four of them entered the hospital simultaneously and made their way to the room they had chosen and prepared. Naruto climbed onto the bed and lay down while Itachi gave Tsunade a jar with a red eyeball floating in it. Naruto, this is your last chance to back out before we start. Are you sure you want this? Tsunade said, her maternal instinct toward Naruto taking over. Naruto said, yes, I am sure. Tsunade then covered his face with a glowing hand, and he fell asleep. Flashback. Approximately 1 hour ago. What is it? Minato asked. I would like to transplant a Sharingan eye into Naruto. What? Both Minato and Kakashi simultaneously uttered those words. Why would you reveal the lineage of your clan in such a way? Minato said. Because even though Naruto is already very strong, I think the Sharingan will greatly help him, and I see him as a little brother to me just like Sasuke does. Furthermore, I have reason to think that Danzo is the owner of my friend Shisui's missing left Sharingan. Danzo has Shisui's eye. Hold on. I believed he passed away in a training mishap, Minato said. That was the conventional wisdom, but a few years later, I discovered a note and a Sharingan eye in some of Shisui's possessions. I hope that one day you will find this note, Itachi said, recalling Shisui's note. Although I regret having to leave, it was best for the village. Someone attacked me and took my left eye. I couldn't identify him, but he took it. You know how terrible it would be if he also got my other eye. I'm going to leave the village and give you my other eye. Keep Konoha safe, Itachi, and use my eye as a tool to assist you. I hope to see you again in the future. Farewell. Shisui, I sign this. He was attacked and lost his left eye by an unknown assailant, before leaving his right eye to me. He then faked his death and left the village in order to maintain the peace. Kakashi remarked, wow, he was a true patriot. He made the ultimate sacrifice for the safety of the village. Itachi responded, yes. He is the ideal example of a shinobi. Anyways, I believe the reason that Danzo wears the bandages on his head is to hide Shisui's other Sharingan. So it would be beneficial to Naruto to have a Sharingan of his own. Yes, I suppose you are right. Whose Sharingan do you intend to give him though? Shisui's. Are you sure, Itachi? That is one of the most powerful eyes of your clan. Yes. As I said, Naruto is like a little brother to me. I trust him with the power above everyone else in this world besides Sasuke, and he has his own Sharingan. Besides, soon, I will have his left eye back. Naruto? Naruto.kun? A voice that seemed disinterested said, Naruto, can you hear me? Naruto opened his eye and asked, huh? Where am I? Why can't I see out of my right eye? What happened? Tsunade said, calm down, Naruto, and I'll explain. You just had surgery, it is normal to experience temporary amnesia afterwards. You agreed to have a Sharingan eye implanted into your right eye socket. The eye is covered for now to allow it to heal properly. Oh yay, it's coming back to me now. Did everything go well? Yes, the surgery was a success. You will just need to rest for a few days to allow the eye to heal, so you don't damage any of the connections. Okay. Minato inquired, so how do you feel, son? Everyone in the room laughed when Naruto said, like I just ran 1,000 miles on my ass cheeks. He said, I think I just need some resta, before he dozed off again. Minato picked up Naruto and vanished in a flash of yellow, saying, "Thank you Tsunade, Shizune. I'll take him home to get some rest now." As everything came into focus, Naruto opened his eyes slowly and surveyed the room. Ino's head was resting on his chest as she slept in a chair beside his bed. "Thank God you're okay. I was worried about you Naruto-kun," she said as she sat up and woke Ino up. "What? How long have I been asleep Ino-chan?" 2 days now. Your dad told me what happened. Are you feeling okay Naru-kun? Yeah Ino-chan, I feel fine. Can you go find Tsunade for me please? She said as she left the room and came back a short while later with Tsunade. According to Tsunade, how do you feel Naruto? I feel fine now. How much longer do I need to leave this cover on? How does it feel? Any pain or anything? No, it's fine I think. As Naruto began to remove his bandages, Tsunade said, "Well, if it feels good, then you can go ahead and unwrap it." After removing them, he opened his eye, screamed, and put his hand over it. Tsunade and Ino screamed at the same time, "Naruto, what's wrong?" Naru-kun. As Naruto began to laugh, before Ino punched him in the head, he smiled and rubbed the back of his head, saying, "Gotcha." She yelled, "Damn it Naruto, you worried us," with fire in her eyes. Tsunade said, "Kid, you're lucky you are recovering from surgery or I'd kick your ass for worrying me like that. But remember, you will be better one day and I'll be waiting." Naruto swallowed and questioned why he had done what he had done. Minato rushed through the door and exclaimed, "What's the matter? I heard a scream." Tsunade grinned as Ino said, "It was nothing, just your son being a dumbass. I like this girl." "Oh thank God. So how do you feel Naruto?" "I think I am fine. It doesn't hurt or anything. It's just kind of weird, everything is so much clearer now." "Yay son, that's the Sharingan for you. But remember you'll have to keep it covered like Kakashi since you can't cut it off or it will drain your chakra." "Actually Dad, I have an idea that may help me and Kakashi both. How long until our next mission?" Minato said, 1 week from tonight." "Okay, that gives me time to work on my idea and rest the eyes some more. I may need yours and Jiraiya's help along the way though." "What do you have in mind?" "A seal over my eye, to allow me to cover and uncover it with chakra, just like was normal." That's a brilliant idea son, maybe we can do it. But before that I need to go for a walk, my legs feel like noodles. Just be sure to keep the eye covered. Actually I think it may be better to use it, I have plenty of chakra and I need to adjust. Walking out of the room with Tsunade, Minato said, "Yeah, I guess you're right. You two have fun." Naruto rose from his bed and started to go to the door, but he stopped abruptly and turned a deep red as Ino followed suit. "Na Naru. Kuna," she stammered while speaking. He hurried back to the bed and put on his clothes, saying, "I know Ino-chan. God, oh God. He is incredibly attractive." In her mind, she yelled, "Ino." Ino was still staring at him and blushing when Naruto got dressed. "Well Ino-chan, did you like what you saw?" he asked in his seductive voice as blood trickled down Ino's nose. He kissed her forehead and walked her to the stairs, saying, "I take that as a yes then." "What happened to her?" Tsunade asked as they arrived in the living room. Naruto laughed and said, "Well, no one bothered to tell me they took all my clothes, so she saw me walk across the room in my boxers." Jiraiya took out a notebook and began writing frantically while grinning lecherously. As a fist attached to Tsunade's slammed into his face, Jiraiya said, "Tell me more kid. Anything happen? He is like my son you damn pervert. And that means he is like a step-son to you. Actually he is my god-son." Jiraiya grumbled. As they made their way to the door after Ino regained consciousness, Naruto said, "Well, see ya later, me and Ino-chan are going for a walk." The couple was taking their time strolling over to Ichiraku's and enjoying the day after deciding to go grab a bite to eat there. They encountered Sasuke around halfway. Sasuke smiled and said, "Hey Naruto. Damn it sure is weird seeing you with a Sharingan. Anyways, where are you two headed?" "Ichiraku's ramen. Wanna come?" "Sure, but I have to go meet Sakura first." "Sakura? Wasn't she the president of your fan club not too long ago?" laughed Naruto. Sasuke said, laughing a little, "Fuck off. She was, but she approached me a few days ago and she seemed to have calmed down so I figured I'd give her a chance. What about your fan club?" Naruto and Sasuke laughed together as Ino gave him a fierce look. "Well Hinata talked to me a few days ago, but I turned her down of course. Damn she was persistent though she damn near raped me." "A block away," Sasuke exclaimed. Oh. I'm going to get Sakura, I'll meet you there in 15 minutes. Ino made Naruto feel 3 inches taller and said, So she almost raped you, and I didn't hear of this? Let me explain, Ino-chan. Oh, you bet you're going to explain, and it better be damn good too. Then he said, the night we got home from Wave, when I dropped you off at home and started walking home myself, I heard someone following me. I turned around to confront the person, and it turned out to be Hinata. She asked me out and I told her no, and so she tried to hug me and I told her no again. Oh hell no, her ass is mine. Thought Ino. I promise nothing happened though, Ino-chan. It was just male conversation. As her scowl changed to a smile, Ino said sweetly, good, I am going to kick her ass though. Don't worry about it, Ino-chan. Oh, I'm worried about it, Naru.kun. I can't have her stealing my man. That Ino-chan won't ever be a concern for you. Naruto gave Ino a head kiss and declared, I love you, and I always will. Ah, Naru.kun. I also adore you. Come, let's meet Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke and Sakura arrived a few minutes after the couple resumed their walk to Ichiraku's, and the four of them entered to find a seat. 5 days following Naruto's awakening, he had spent a lot of time here since his surgery trying to come up with a seal to turn the Sharingan on and off, and he was making progress with Jiraiya and his father's help, but he hadn't figured it out completely yet. Naruto sat at his desk in his father's study, looking over some scrolls while scribbling some things in another scroll. He continued looking through the scrolls and taking notes for another 2 hours or so before his eyes widened and he declared, I think I've got it. Uncle Jiraiya. After a few minutes, Jiraiya entered and asked, what is Naruto? As Jiraiya approached and examined his notes, Naruto said, I think I figured it out, Uncle Jiraiya. Well, Naruto, it appears to be working. Let's go speak with your father and find out his thoughts on the matter. After putting his scroll in his pocket, Naruto took Jiraiya by the arm and vanished in a flash of red. Minato was studying some reports when they returned to the Hokage's office. Hey Dad. Naruto said as Minato looked up from the desk. Hey son, what's going on? Jiraiya said, looks like he may have figured out the seal. Naruto gave Minato his notes. After examining it for a minute, Minato remarked, it appears to be functional. Naruto, how did you figure it out? In essence, it combines a trigger seal, which is frequently found on explosive tags, with a tiny chakra suppression seal. Theoretically, chakra should deactivate when it is directed toward the outer trigger seal, enabling it to turn the eye on. However, when it is directed back toward the trigger, it activates, obstructing the chakra's path to the eye and thereby cutting it off, Naruto stated. That sounds good. Are you prepared to give it a try? Minato said. Yes, I am. Minato got up and walked over to Naruto, saying, very well then, lay down on the floor and we will get on it. As he said, okay Naruto, this is your last chance to change your mind if you are unsure of it. Jiraiya took out a scroll and opened it to reveal a bottle of ink and a brush. He said, removing his headband, no, I'm sure. As Naruto cut his palm and allowed the blood to trickle into the ink bottle, Jiraiya said, okay, cut your hand and pour some blood into this ink. As he began to replicate Naruto's design on his face, Jiraiya said, okay then, be very still while I work, you know how sensitive sealing can be. After copying the seal down for approximately 30 minutes, Jiraiya leaned up and declared, well, I'm done with the writing. This is the truth moment. When the seal briefly glowed bright red before fading back into his skin, Naruto reached up and channeled his chakra to it. As soon as the ink vanished, he grabbed his head and rolled over, screaming. Naruto. What is it? Jiraiya and Minato both yelled as Naruto's cries changed to laughter. You scared us again, Naruto, damn it. As he struck Naruto in the head, Minato yelled. You gotta admit it was funny though, Dad. Hell no, you really frightened us. He acts way too much like me, Minato said, finding it amusing that he was no longer concerned. Naruto simply rubbed the back of his head and smiled. After a minute of staring into his eye, Minato said, can you see out of it? Yay, I see fine. Well then, turn the Sharingan on. As the eye turned red and 3 tomos emerged, Naruto directed his chakra toward the trigger seal. Alright, what about the Mangekyo? Jiraiya inquired. Naruto directed more chakra toward the eye, causing the tomo to spin quickly as it fused to form a black, 4-edged saw blade in his eye. Okay, cut it off, Minato said as Naruto directed his chakra back to the trigger, causing the saw blade to vanish and the eye to change from red to black. Jiraiya said, very well, it looks to work just fine. We should tell Kakashi, to see if he is interested in it, Naruto replied. As he left through the door, Jiraiya said, I'll go find him. Well, I'm glad it works, I just wish I could turn it back blue as well, I look funny with one black and one blue eye, said Naruto as he laughed. Minato smiled and said, "You look fine, Naruto, it definitely gives you character." After a few minutes, Jiraiya and Kakashi entered the room, and Kakashi greeted Jiraiya by saying, "Hey sensei, you asked me to be here?" "Yes, Kakashi, you might find our news interesting. Would you mind explaining, Naruto?" Kakashi first noticed Naruto's eye, and Naruto said, "Well Kakashi. Sensei, I have developed a seal to turn the Sharingan on and off. Therefore, it was successful, and everything is still functional?" "Yes." Naruto said, "On, off, and the Mangekyo, turning on the Sharingan, switching to his Mangekyo, and then turning it off again. That would eliminate the blind spot on the Sharingan side and enable you to see with both eyes, so that's useful. Well done, Naruto." "So, would you like to give it a try, sensei?" Kakashi said, "Sure, if you don't mind." Kakashi cut his hand and allowed the blood to drip into the vial before laying down and taking off his headband. Jiraiya carefully applied the seal, then got up and said, "Okay, I'm done. Go ahead and activate the seal." Jiraiya said, "Alright then, just drop some blood in this vial and then lay down on the floor." As he sat up and surveyed the room, Kakashi raised his palm to his eye and directed chakra toward the seal, which briefly glowed before going out. Gazing at Kakashi's unadorned black eye, Jiraiya remarked, "Looks like a success. Just channel some chakra to the trigger seal to let it activate." When the Sharingan returned to its plain black state, Kakashi turned it off and switched it to his Mangekyo, which resembled 3 sides extending from his pupil. "So, what are your thoughts?" Minato said, glancing at Kakashi. "Well, it's not the same. It has been 14 years since I was able to see normally through my right eye. After 2 days. Your mission is extremely risky. S rank. I will deny any involvement if you are apprehended, and you will be tried as village traitors. Are you aware of and comfortable with these risks?" "Yes, Hokage. Sama." All 4 men said at once. "All right. We will be holding a council meeting tonight at 7 p.m. Minato placed a picture of Danzo on the desk and said, "You will follow this man home and kill him after the meeting is over." All 4 men said, "Yes, Hokage. Sama." Minato gave Naruto and Sasuke each a metal chest protector and a plain white mask with the leaf symbol on the forehead, saying, "Naruto, Sasuke, you will need these. As I said, if you are discovered, you will not be supported. Follow him home, kill him, plant the evidence, and leave. Never speak a word of this to anyone not in this room or you will be executed. Do you understand?" Minato said. "Yes, Hokage. Sama." As the 4 men vanished, Minato said, "Dismissed." A few hours later, 4 men in all black, wearing simple white masks and a metal chest protector, gathered on a building's roof so that the council chamber could be seen. A man spoke in a low voice. "From this point on, we do not know each other, we do not have names, we are not Leaf Ninja. I will be Inu, Itachi is Crow, Naruto is Fox, and Sasuke is Hawk. As the leader said, we are on our own. Do not get captured, do not be seen. You are to spread out and follow the target home. Once he arrives, we will convene on the house. Get in, kill him, get out, all without a sound. The first person to enter the house, use a privacy jutsu to be sure there are no sounds. Now fan out." As they fled to conceal, wait for him. Naruto saw the target exit the chamber after a short while. Everything darkened the moment he saw the man's face. Naruto was standing in a pool of water in what appeared to be a sewer when the darkness subsided. "Where am I?" he asked, surveying the area, noticing a big gate that looked like a prison door with the word "Seal" written on a paper tag. Abruptly, a huge set of red eyes was staring down at him. "Hello, brat. I am Kurama." Naruto said, "Kurama? Yes, you may know me as the Kyuubi." "The Kyuubi? What the fuck do you want? Calm yourself, kid. I mean you no harm. I couldn't hurt you in here even if I wanted to. How did I get here? I was on a mission. Calm down. Time in here move quicker than in the real world. Every month that passes in here is only 1 second outside. Why have you brought me here? That man you were targeting, I have seen him before. He was with the bastard who forced me into attacking your puny village. You can see things outside of the seal?" "Yes, I see everything that you see." "Wait, you said you have met this man?" "Yes, right after Madara Uchiha released me from your mother's seal we teleported somewhere. Madara controlled me with the accursed Sharingan to keep me dormant. As I sat there powerless, he met with that man discussing the attack." "You mean Danzo was involved in the attack?" "It would appear that way. That is of no concern to me though. It is my goal in life to kill Madara and everyone he associated with. That Uchiha bastard controlled me against my will with his Sharingan not once but twice. This Danzo was with him that night and therefore must die. If you succeed in killing him, I will allow you the use of my power. What do you mean by that? I hate Madara, and by association, this Danzo guy. I want him to suffer. If you can kill him, I will grant you access to my chakra. What good would that do me? Fool, I am the most powerful of the tailed beasts. My power is feared by everyone. With the use of my power you would be unstoppable. I see. He will die regardless, but I will consider your offer. Now how do I get out of here? Kurama said to Naruto as he turned and walked away. Just walk away from here. I will contact you again soon. When Naruto awoke, he discovered that Danzo had not moved from his previous location and was still walking. He continued walking toward the southeast corner of the village until he came to a big house surrounded by a high fence. He approached and unlocked the gate, then went inside and closed the door. While waiting for Danzo to settle in, Naruto watched a black blur jump from a roof and enter Danzo's yard. After walking around to the back of the house, the figure climbed inside after jimmying open a window. The privacy jutsu was activated when Naruto heard a click in his ear. Naruto ran around back and into the window that the first man opened after jumping down and into the yard. As soon as he was in good standing, the fourth member of their squad and another of them climbed in behind him. They all spread out and began looking for Danzo inside the house. As Naruto turned to head for the northwest corner of the house, he heard two clicks in his ears. He encountered one of his group as he moved silently to that side of the house. He recognized the other as Itachi and released him first. The two continued walking in silence until they came across Kakashi standing next to a closed door. As Naruto took his place on the other side of the door from Kakashi, he began to communicate with them in sign language, saying, "The target is in here. I hear no movements. Crow, attack on my order. Fox, you are backup." "What the foo?" a voice said as the door suddenly opened, and Itachi ran inside before the floor thudded. They heard Itachi shout, "We've been compromised, that was a clone." All of a sudden, Kakashi yelled, "Find him. Don't let him out of this house alive." With haste, Naruto triggered his Sharingan and began searching for Danzo's chakra signature. He ran that way, Itachi following, feeling it running down the hallway on the opposite side of the house. He heard an explosion while he was running, and when he turned to look again, he saw that Sasuke was fighting Danzo. Sasuke said, "Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu." Naruto accelerated and dashed into the room, throwing out 6 shuriken that he covered with fire. As he ran through some hand seals and exhaled a gust of wind, Naruto sped up the shuriken and heightened the flames, jumping right into the fray. He also said, "Wind style, great breakthrough." A massive wall of wind blew out, stopping the shuriken in their tracks and rattling the house, flinging Sasuke against a wall and ejecting Naruto and Itachi from the room as Danzo ran through some hand seals and exclaimed, "Wind style, great breakthrough." As the kunai flew at him, after rapidly getting back on his feet, Itachi ran back into the room while performing hand seals. He shouted, "Fire style, grand fireball jutsu," as soon as he entered the room, and a ball of fire engulfed the opposite side of the room. Everyone saw a figure standing amid the smoldering flames as the fire subsided. He had a Sharingan in his right eye socket after removing the bandages from his head. "I knew that bastard had it," Itachi thought. Before pointing his hands at the still down Sasuke and yelling, "Wind style, vacuum spear," as multiple wind rods blasted out of his hands, Danzo performed a few hand seals. Itachi swiftly performed his own hand seals and exclaimed, "Fire style, fire dragon jutsu," as a massive dragon formed of flames erupted from his mouth, catching the wind and growing larger and hotter as it proceeded in Danzo's direction. As soon as the dragon struck the wall and vanished, Danzo rolled out of the way. A voice in Naruto's ear said, "Get him against the back wall, and I'll finish it." Naruto rushed toward Danzo and kicked him in the head. After dodging the kick, Danzo punched Naruto in the ribs. He attempted to backhand Danzo, but he ducked under him before he could land a bone-shattering blow to Naruto's face, shattering his mask and sending him flying into the wall. Naruto leapt aside to avoid the blow. Danzo began to charge forward once more, but Itachi stopped him in his tracks and punched him in the face, knocking him back a few feet. Itachi began to kick and punch Danzo, but he blocked or sidestepped every one of them. Sasuke arrived as those two were fighting. He got up and immediately charged in to attack Danzo with Itachi after regaining his bearings. Together, the two Uchihas began to push Danzo back toward the wall, where he should have been. Danzo eventually discovered a gap and knocked Itachi away with a kick to the side. Swiftly returning to his position, Naruto launched his own attack on Danzo. They nearly had him backed against the wall, but they weren't hurting him. Just behind Danzo, there was a sudden explosion, and before he could react, A hand covered in lightning was pierced through his chest. Hissed Danzo. Well Kakashi, how nice to see you. Fuck off. You should have known this was coming, you traitor, Itachi replied. I only do what is in the best interest of this village. You are the traitors, they will continue in my place. You can never truly stop me, Danzo yelled. Kakashi asked, why were you meeting the Hyugas? Fuck you. Danzo spit out. With his Mangekyo activated and his gaze fixed on Danzo's, Itachi said, okay. We'll do this the hard way. Suddenly, Danzo was strapped to a tree and staring at Itachi in his rude attire. So Itachi too then. Did your precious Hokage decide to send the best ninja in your village after me? As Itachi turned to see Naruto standing there, a new voice said, yes, he did. Fox. How are you in here? Tsukiyomi, Naruto replied. As a kunai materialized in each of their hands, Itachi turned back to Danzo and asked, I see. Shall we then? As he twisted and jabbed the kunai into Danzo's knee, Naruto said, yes, let's break this little bitch. Itachi stabbed Danzo's other knee with his kunai at the same moment. Tell us what business you had with the Hyuga clan, Itachi replied. Danzo spat in Itachi's face and yelled, fuck off, I'll die before I speak. Itachi took the kunai from Danzo's knee and stabbed it into his balls, saying, you just fucked up Danzo. You know this will continue for as long as you remain alive. You might as well end it quickly and tell me what I want to know, Itachi said, as Danzo let out a painful scream. Naruto and Itachi returned to the real world and stared at Danzo, who had blood streaming from his mouth, ears, and eyes. I think I will do just that, Danzo exclaimed. After taking a quick look at his pulse, Itachi declared, he's dead. Bastard killed himself. Itachi then removed Danzo's right eye, placed it in a jar of liquids, and sealed it away after Kakashi withdrew his arm and allowed his body to drop to the ground. Alright. Burn the body, and be sure to plant the evidence. Kakashi replied. Itachi swiftly burned most of Danzo's body with a fire style jutsu, leaving only his head and the shoulder across from the Chidori. Before leaving the house as though they had never been there, Naruto and Sasuke planted evidence throughout the room to frame Root. After a week, Sasuke yelled, lighting style. Wave of destruction, as a huge bolt of lightning blasted out of his hands, tearing the ground as it struck it. The real Naruto exclaimed, water style, tearing torrent. As a huge wave of water formed in front of him before joining the Rasengan and transforming into a huge cyclone that crashed straight through Sasuke's lightning. Collaboration technique. Typhoon Vortex Jutsu. He exclaimed as he leapt away from the lightning and created a clone, which then created a wind style, Rasengan. Sasuke leapt out of the way just before the attack began. He said, fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu, as a huge ball of fire erupted from his mouth and flew straight at Naruto after landing and rolling across the ground before running through some hand seals. Water style. Rasengan, exclaimed Naruto as he jumped headfirst at the enormous fireball while forming a Rasengan. A huge column of water shot through the fireball and directly at Sasuke when the Rasengan exploded out of it. After running through some hand seals, Sasuke yelled, Chidori, as lightning struck his hand and he rushed toward the water column, stabbing the Chidori. Naruto was blown backwards and into a tree by the lightning that traveled up the water and into his body. He glanced up in time to see Sasuke kicking an axe as he came down at him. In order to avoid the kick, he swiftly rolled to the side and punched Sasuke in the ribs. Naruto threw a flurry of punches and kicks at Sasuke as he flipped back out of the way. After a few minutes of taijutsu sparring, Sasuke saw an opening and kicked Naruto in the side. Despite being pushed back a few feet by the kick, Naruto managed to hold onto Sasuke's leg and use the momentum of the kick to flip Sasuke over and knock him to the ground. Naruto held him by the side and said, damn it, I think that kick broke some ribs. Yay, and I think you broke a few of mine with that body slam, Sasuke replied. After applying green chakra to his hand, Naruto began to heal his ribs. When he was finished, he turned to Sasuke and healed his as well. Sasuke got back up and said, well, that was fun. I think I'm gonna go hang out with Sakura a bit now. Naruto got up and asked, so you and Sakura are dating now? Yay, she's a nice girl once you get to know her. Well, have fun with that. I may go hang out with Ino-chan myself. See ya, Sasuke said as the two boys left. Naruto kept walking home until he ran into Ino. Hey Ino-chan, what's up? With a small smile, Ino said, I was actually on my way to see you, Naruto-kun. What about you? I was going home to take a shower, then I was gonna come find you. Well, isn't that convenient? What did you have in mind, Naruto-kun? I don't know, what do you want to do, Ino-chan? How about a picnic? As Ino grinned, Naruto remarked, sounds perfect to me. I'm happy with anything as long as I'm with you. Ah, that was sweet Naru-kun. I love you. As they began to walk back to his house, he said, I love you too, Ino-chan. Let's go get ready. After they arrived, he went to shower while Ino assembled some picnic food. They vanished in an instant as Naruto grabbed in as he descended the stairs after taking a shower. On top of the Hokage mountain, they resurfaced. Naruto just sat back and watched as Ino began to set up their picnic. She had just finished when all of a sudden everything went dark, and he was in the Kyuubi's sewer-like section. Hello Kit. Kurama said. You know you have a knack for picking bad times to talk, right? Yay, I guess I do. I just decided that I was ready to talk again. I'm listening. As I said before, I hate Madara Uchiha, as well as his partners. I told you that if you killed Danzo then I would allow you to use some of my powers. See, this will not only help you but me as well. Since I am stuck in this prison, then I can help you and kill Madara through you. How exactly can you help me? Have you ever noticed how fast your wounds heal? Well, I can make them heal nearly instantly. With my chakra you will gain an affinity for fire-style jutsu. You can actually partially release me without us both dying, but for that you would need help. Yuki's Jinchuriki should be able to help you with that. I believe he is a shinobi of Kumogakure. And all I ask of you in return is that you use these powers to kill Madara. What do you say? So I agree to kill Madara and you pump more chakra into me all the time? In a nutshell, yes. I can do that. If he is behind the attack on the leaf then I will enjoy it. As the sewer disappeared into the real world, the Kyuubi said, oh, Kit, by the way. If you ever so much as look at me with that damned eye of yours on, I'll eat you. Naruto followed Ino's example of sitting on the blanket. After lunch, they spent the remainder of the day sitting around discussing everything. After watching the sunset, they stayed until Naruto escorted Ino home. At her door, he greeted her with a kiss and said, good night, Ino-chan, I love you. She said, I love you too, Naru-kun. He vanished in a flash of red. When he returned to his home, he went upstairs to get into bed. Naruto got up the following morning and, as usual, went downstairs for breakfast. Dad, how is our village's relationship with Kumo? Asked Naruto after they had finished their meal. We are neutral to each other. Why? Well, Kurama told me I needed to talk to a Kumo nin about some training. Kurama? The Kyuubi, you talked to him? Yes, he isn't as bad as everyone thinks. He was forced into the attack on the leaf. That's why he said I should talk to the Eight Tails Jinchuriki. He wants to kill Madara Uchiha for controlling him. Eight Tails Jinchuriki? Wait, did you say Madara Uchiha? Yes, that's what Kurama said. Madara controlled him twice with his Sharingan. I see. Madara was supposed to have died years ago at the hands of the first Hokage Thaw anyways. Do you know the name of the Eight Tails Jinchuriki? As Naruto talked to Kurama in his head, he said, no, but let me ask Kurama. Kurama, can you hear me? Yes kid, I can hear you. I believe they call the Jinchuriki Killer Bee. Thanks. He said that the Jinchuriki's name is Killer Bee. Oh yeah, I remember now, the Raikage's brother. I will send a letter to request a meeting. Who knows, maybe it could even lead to an alliance with them. Thanks Dad. Don't thank me, all I'm doing is writing a letter. Now hurry and get ready, Itachi wants to see you today. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. Naruto exclaimed as he hurried upstairs, unsure of what Itachi would want to do. He hurriedly changed after taking a shower and vanished in a burst of red light. Minato asked, so Itachi, are you sure about this? Yes Hokage. Sama, I think it would be for the best. I really don't have any other use for it, Itachi replied. I suppose you're right, but still, that would make twice that you have given away one of your family's most powerful eyes. Yes, you are right, but as I said, I have no need for it. If you insist. He should be here any minute. Suddenly, a red flash appeared, and Naruto appeared next to Itachi in front of Minato's desk. Hey Dad, Itachi. Hello Naruto-kun. So my dad said you wanted to speak with me? Yes, I was wondering if you would be interested in having Shishui's other Sharingan? I couldn't possibly ask you for that Itachi, you did say it was one of the most powerful eyes in your clan and I already have one of them. Don't worry about it Naruto-kun, I have no better use for it than to give it to you. I don't know Itachi, it just wouldn't feel right to take so much without giving you anything. Well, look at it this way, if I give you the eyes, it makes you stronger, and if you are stronger then you can help me stay alive. So I'll trade you the eye for the gift of life, sound fair? With a slight smile, Naruto said, well I guess I'll take it then. Well this is interesting, my son is going to be the first non-Uchiha to have both Sharingan eyes. Minato was thinking. Well Naruto, if you're ready we can have Tsunade begin the procedure now, said Minato. Naruto sat up in bed and used his one good eye to scan the room. He felt as though he had been in this predicament before, but it also felt different. Naruto.kun. Ino jumped clear across the room and glomped onto him after waking up in her chair and hearing the commotion across the room. Ino. Chana, what happened? With a startled pause, Ino said, you had another surgery, Naru.kun. Lady Tsunade says it went well again and you shoulda, Naruto.kun Uriah. What is it Ino? Chan, asked Naruto, now anxious. Your eye Issa blue again. Just like it used to before you got the first Sharingan. Blue? Oh man. I hope it didn't break, Naruto exclaimed, darting some chakra in the direction of his eye. As soon as Ino said, no Naru.kun, your Sharingan is still there, everything became clear. Then, as Tsunade entered, Naruto let out a breath he was unaware he had been holding. Tsunade sat down next to Naruto's bed and said, well, it looks like you're up already. You know what's going on, right? Yeah, I got another eye transplant, and somehow my right eye is blue again. Well, did it turn blue? Is the Sharingan still functional? Yeah, I already tried it. So, I'm curious as to what might have caused that. Anyway, since you've been out for 2 days, you ought to be okay to uncover the left one now. As he began to remove the bandages covering his left eye, Naruto said, okay. After he unwrapped it, he considered making another joke, but he thought about what Tsunade had done the last time after he had somewhat recovered, so he decided to act normal and simply opened his eye. Within Naruto's mind, Kurama said, Kid, I believe your eye changed colors because you got both of the same eyes and your own DNA formatted them to fit. Naruto.kun. It's also blue on the left. As Ino finally caught sight of the new eye, she exclaimed. Yay, Kurama said that my DNA kind of formatted the eyes to fit me, Naruto replied. Tsunade considered all of that from a medical perspective and said, well, I suppose that would make sense, since you now have a matching pair. So, Aunt Tsunade, may I leave now? Yes, but take it easy for a while, and give it some more time to adjust. Okay then. Tsunade rolled out of bed and walked to the door, saying, see you later. Before turning back to his bed to get dressed, Naruto was about halfway to the door when Ino blushed once more and experienced that strange copyright yavu feeling. After Naruto was dressed once more and Ino had stopped the blood from her nose, they began to walk in the direction of the Hokage Tower so that Naruto could regain sensation in his legs. After stopping by Ichiraku Ramen for lunch, Naruto finally made it to Minato's office a few minutes later. His father was relieved to see that he was back up and surprised to see that his son had blue eyes again where they had previously been one black and one blue. Well, they were blue at one point, then one was black, and now they're blue again. Confusing, isn't it? This one is also blue, Naruto.kun. As she used the flying glomp jutsu on him once more, Ino yelled. Yes, I do wonder why they have switched back to blue instead of black, Minato thought aloud. Well, Kurama says that he thinks my DNA formatted the eyes to fit in, since I have the matching set now. Minato said, I suppose that makes sense. Jiraiya climbed through the window and everyone laughed. Yay. As much as a demon fox telling you about DNA morphing transplanted eyes can make. Well, it looks like with the new eyes that you won't need a seal to use them, said Minato. Jiraiya turned to Naruto and said, yeah, I guess you're right, we can remove the one on the left eye now. As Jiraiya performed some hand seals and raised his palm to Naruto's right eye, Naruto said, go ahead, Uncle Jiraiya. As the seal marks on Naruto's eye began to glow and then faded into obscurity, Jiraiya said, seal. Release. Minato said, all right, now let's see how Naruto does. Subsequently, Naruto channeled more chakra into his eyes, which changed from blue to red with 3 tomo in each eye. The tomo began spinning quickly before fusing together to form his Mangekyo, which was also different. Instead of Shisui's saw blade with 4 corners, it now resembled Shisui's, but it appeared as though the space between the blades had been warped into the center, and his eye was now black with red harpoon like blades. The last person to reach this level with their Sharingan was Madara Uchiha. Minato said, Naruto, your Mangekyo is different now as well, we should see what Itachi thinks of this. He vanished in a yellow flash and reappeared a few minutes later, carrying Itachi with him. Itachi was shocked as he looked into Naruto's eyes, thinking, no, it couldn't be. Minato became concerned that something was amiss after noticing the expression on Itachi's normally composed face. What's wrong, Itachi? I believe Naruto may have unlocked the Sharingan's most potent form. Since Madara was the only Uchiha to ever reach this level, we know very little about it. It was believed that if a close relative's eyes were transplanted after the Mangekyo was unlocked, the Mangekyo would grow stronger and acquire eternal light. Naruto-kun, in my opinion, has attained the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. This information stunned everyone in the room, and Jiraiya was the first to speak. But how? Naruto wasn't closely related to Shisui, since he isn't even Uchiha. As previously stated, our knowledge of the M's is quite limited. Given that the Uchiha and Uzumaki are distant relatives of the Rakudo Sennin, it might be related to the fact that he carries Uzumaki blood. Minato said, I see, that could explain it I guess. Both Naruto and Ino were still unsure of what was happening. All they knew was that he possessed a very rare and potent form of the Sharingan that only one other person ever possessed. I don't quite get it. Well, Naruto, it appears that your Sharingan responded to the implant as it would have if Itachi had implanted Sasuke's Mangekyo because you carry your mother's blood. To make things easier for his son, Minato said, it's called the M's. Okay, I think I get it now because the Uzumaki and Uchiha both descend from the Rakudo Sennin. When I received the second eye it reacted to our shared bloodline and changed. Itachi said, yes, that's the straightforward version of things. Naruto-kun, I need you to accompany me to the Uchiha compound. We have a secret tablet that can only be read by those who have activated specific Sharingan levels. Please read the section of the tablet pertaining to the M's. Naruto said, okay then that's fine with me, at the Naka Shrine later. After a while, they arrived at a dimly lit room at the end of a long tunnel, where Naruto and Itachi knelt down to read a large stone tablet. Itachi stared at the tablet, but he could only read one half of the writing. The rest was just gibberish. Naruto began reading aloud to Itachi at this point, and they discovered the secrets of the M's, including the perfect Susanoo, the ability to use all of the various Mangekyo abilities, and the renewed light, among other things. After a minute, Naruto abruptly stopped and said, okay, I can't read anymore, it's like it switches to a different language after this. Well, what could be farther away than the M's for him to be unable to read the whole tablet? Itachi thought. Alright, thanks, Naruto-kun. Itachi bowed slightly to Naruto and said, I am very grateful that you have shed some light on one of the biggest mysteries of my clan. We now find Naruto and Itachi standing in Naruto's backyard, a few feet away from a tree that was engulfed in black flames. Naruto spent the following month training with Itachi on the uses of the Mangekyo Sharingan, learning that he could perform several new techniques with his eyes using his new M's. Well done, Naruto-kun. Studying Naruto's handiwork, Itachi said, now try the Kamui. After concentrating on the tree until it began to sway and the sender vanished, Itachi suddenly swung a punch at Naruto's face, which Naruto saw in time and twisted his face as Itachi's fist went straight through. Alright. Naruto-kun, you're making good progress with these techniques, Itachi said. Naruto said, thanks Itachi. Sensei. We're done for the day after one more. Itachi said, use your perfect Susanoo. Naruto was suddenly encircled by a dark red aurora that grew into the upper half of a demonic-looking soldier. The entity grew legs, and after a second, Naruto was raised off the ground, reaching a height of almost 60 feet. Itachi looked up at the demon soldier who loomed over the entire village and thought, maybe it wasn't a good idea to do this in the middle of the village. Naruto. Well done. Now cut it off. As Naruto fell back to the ground, Itachi yelled. The following day as Minato sat in his office going through a C-rank mission report of the Bane of Akage's life, he heard a knock on the door and said, enter. Holding a scroll, a Chunin entered the room and said, Sir, you have a letter from the Raikage. After thanking the messenger and accepting the letter, Minato opened the scroll and read it aloud to himself. Hokage. Dono. Your proposal is intriguing, and I'd like to learn more about it. In a week, I would like to meet with you and your son in my village. Please respond if you are interested so I can make the necessary arrangements. Raikage signed, A. Will you please find Shikaku Nara and tell him I request a meeting with him ASAP? Minato asked a Chunin messenger as he emerged from his office. Yes Hokage. Sama. Shikaku entered a short while later and said, Hokage. Sama, you needed me? Yes, Shikaku, I am leaving tomorrow on a diplomatic mission, and I'm leaving you in charge. Difficult. Yes, sir. When two Anbu suddenly materialized, Minato laughed and waved his hand, saying, Find me, Kakashi, Itachi, and Sasuke. The two said, Yes Hokage. Sama, before vanishing in a whirlpool of leaves. Minato went to his desk, put his hand on the jutsu marker that was always there, and as he channeled some chakra into the seal, Naruto appeared in front of the desk in a flash of red light in a matter of seconds. Yes, father? We have a mission, but I am waiting on the rest of your team to explain. Shikaku stood off to the side as they all assembled in his office after a short while. Naruto and I have to travel to Kumo for a diplomatic assignment, and I've chosen the 3 of you to accompany us. We depart at 8 a.m. for a 2-week trip, so get ready. As they vanished, everyone but Naruto said, yes sir. You set up a meeting with B, then? In a way. In exchange for B teaching you, I have set up a treaty conference with Kumo itself. As he vanished in a flash of red, Naruto said, okay, thanks, Dad. The following morning everyone was at the gate, prepared to depart. Sasuke and Itachi had told their parents last night, and Naruto had said goodbye to Ino yesterday. They soon left, traveling north at a high speed, and arrived in Kumo without incident. They were met at the gate and taken to the best hotel in Kumo, where they unpacked and waited for Minato and Naruto to head straight to the Raikage Tower, where they were seated alongside B. Minato and Naruto bowed to the 2 of them and said, Raikage. Dono/Raikage.sama. The Raikage and his brother got up and bowed as well. A.N. I'm not very good at rapping, so B will sound even more foolish than usual, sorry. Yo Manat. Oh, Mr. 9, we. Take it easy bro, I'm just putting on a show, the Raikage glared at his brother. Anyway, the Raikage said, yes, we have decided to meet and talk about forming an alliance. Minato was reminded, yes, and to discuss the Jinchuriki issue. Certainly. I am honored that you would seek an alliance with us, as we both know that Konoha is the most powerful military force among the 5 great nations. Kumo's navy is unmatched, even though we might have the best shinobi force. Each of us has something valuable to contribute. Additionally, I want my son to be trained in the control of the Kyuubi's power. A. Stated, that is acceptable. What do you say, B? Yay. Teaching the fabled red flash sounds like so much fun. Naruto. Minato said. I think it sounds good. Thank you, B. Sama and Raikage, Sama. So, when are you going to begin? The Raikage asked. As soon as we can you. Are you prepared, Naruto? Said A. Yes, Raikage. Sama. All right, B. Are you going to take him now? Yes, indeed. On the grass in front of a waterfall, Naruto and B were visible. You must defeat the Kyuubi here at the Waterfall of Truth in order to purge yourself of all hate, yeah. All right, what should I do? Go meditate on the water and you'll soon see the face of your hatred. Okay. Man, this guy is weirda. After walking to the center of the lake and starting to meditate, another Naruto emerged from the waterfall. This Naruto had darker blonde hair and black eyes, and he stared at Good Naruto for a moment before charging. Good Naruto leapt aside and performed some hand seals, and a clone appeared next to him. He exclaimed, Collaboration Ninjutsu, Hydroelectric Dragon Jutsu. As a massive water dragon rose from the lake and became covered with lightning. But to his surprise, his opposite did the same thing. After they battled for a while, neither side budging, he dropped back and thought for a minute. It is the incarnation of my hatred. How do you combat hatred? As he charged directly at the bad Naruto, he said to himself, I have an idea. He quickly covered the distance, and before the bad Naruto could react, Good Naruto embraced him. The clones soon fell apart, and B cheered before he instructed them to move on to the next step. After a month, after shedding his hatred and gaining unrestricted control of Kurama's power, Naruto emerged from the Cave of Truth a different person. However, it wasn't easy. At one point, he actually had to fight the Kyuubi. Nevertheless, he prevailed and had some interesting moments throughout the process. Rewind when Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder while he was meditating with the Kyuubi and releasing the seal. He turned to see a man who looked to be in his late 60s. The man grinned and said, Hello, Naruto-kun. I have spent the last 12 years anticipating this day. Hiruzen even praised Naruto's development and skills as they sat down and discussed how he gave his life for Minato and how Minato was a war hero. But eventually, Hiruzen's chakra started to deplete, so they bid him farewell for good and he vanished forever. Flashback. The battle with the Kyuubi when the seal broke. In an instant, Kurama was upon him after Naruto broke the seal. In an instant, Naruto teleported to a kunai he had thrown into the air. 6 huge chains suddenly exploded from the ground and encircled Kurama as the two engaged in a fierce battle with neither really gaining ground on the other. Kurama was confined to the ground by the chains, which also limited his chakra and range of motion. He had to enjoy himself while doing it, even though he knew he was defeated. He smiled slightly as B told Naruto to grab his chakra and pull it away from his body. The Kyuubi gave Naruto their congratulations after he succeeded. Naruto abruptly found himself sitting in a sizable grassy meadow after leaving the shadowy prison. A stunning woman in her early 20s sat across from him. She smiled affectionately and said, "Hello, son." As he had done with Hiruzen, the two sat and conversed until her time was running out. She told him she loved him, kissed him on the cheek, and they hugged. She told him to tell his father that she loved and missed him after he told her he loved her too. He nodded, and as she vanished, they embraced again. The final week of training was devoted to acclimating Naruto to Kurama's power. At first, he crushed boulders without trying because he was so strong. At first, just using his chakra arm to lift a boulder would turn it into dust. But now he was in control enough to use the chakra arms to caress a woman if necessary. He was somewhat taken aback to discover that, during his complete Biju transformation, he stayed in his human form but was enclosed by a six-story, tall yellow chakra cloak. In contrast to B and his speech patterns, every other Jinchuriki adopted the Biju's physical form. He thought it strange that he was dubbed the Red Flash and Naruto of the Red Lightning as a result of Kurama's influence, but the beast's chakra form appeared yellow. It would appear that Naruto was genuinely unique in every way. 1 month prior to the Chunin exams, back in the Leaf. All three of the rookie teams aside from Naruto and Sasuke's team, who were now both Junina, had received sponsorship from their sensei to participate in the exams. Since he became a Junin, Naruto had been assisting Ino's team, and it was evident that the team had improved since having an additional sensei to support them. He was pleased to see how much his girlfriend had changed. He had no doubt that she and the rest of her team would make Chunin. Final exam day for Chunin. Together with the Konoha second year team, the Suna team, and the Auto team, all three rookie teams advanced to the finals. The final matches in the tournament would be: when Ino and Kin faced off, Ino used mind control to force Kin to give up the fight. Kiba attempted a straight attack on Neji, but Neji won with ease thanks to the soft fist. When Gaara and Dosu faced off, Gaara killed Dosu by crushing him with his sand. Kankuro gave up the match just 1 second ahead of Shikamaru. When Temari and Tenten faced off, Temari's wind rendered Tenten's weapons useless, and Temari prevailed. When Shino and Zaku faced off, Shino destroyed Zaku's arms and stuffed his airholes with his bugs. Shino prevails. Although Sakura put up a good fight, Hinata prevailed with her soft fist. After a fierce battle, Akina defeated Seiko by trapping her ankles with Earth-style jutsu and compelling her to surrender. Lee defeated Choji in a taijutsu match because of Lee's superior speed. The following round was Temari and Shikamaru engaged in a brief altercation before Shikamaru caught Temari in his shadow and gave up. Shino and Akina battled for a while before Akina abruptly passed out from chakra exhaustion brought on by Shino's bugs. Ino and Hinata engaged in a fierce catfight that ended with Ino winning via mind transfer. When Neji and Gaara faced off, Neji put up a fierce fight and even managed to harm Gaara's sand armor before being rendered unconscious by a sand tentacle. Lee was given a pass. Semi-finals Temari forfeited the match against Lee. Ino vs. Shino. It was an intriguing battle, and Ino eventually knocked Shino unconscious with her new mind scramble jutsu technique. Gaara was given a pass. Finals Ino vs. Gaara vs. Lee. Naruto advises both Ino and Lee to forfeit. The citizens fell asleep as soon as Ino and Lee forfeited the match, and all of the shinobi saw feathers fall. Naruto was awakened by Kurama's mental prodding. The genjutsu victims were awakened by Naruto's instantaneous release of a massive chakra pulse throughout the stadium. The village was being attacked by Suna and Auto Ninja. As Naruto stood beside his father in the cage box, observing everything, the cage turned, removed his robes, and hurled a kunai at Minato's head. As they heard an explosion near the village's north wall, Minato quickly ducked beneath the kunai. As he and the cage battled, Minato yelled, "Naruto, gather a team and go to the north wall. I'll handle things here." Sasuke, Ino, Lee, Hinata, and Shikamaru were standing in a group close by when Naruto jumped out of the box. "Have any of you seen Kakashi or any other Junin?" Sasuke said. "They are all fighting around the stadium." As he created 100 clones to assist, Naruto uttered the words, "Shit. You five, come with me, there is a force at the north wall. Sasuke is in charge of you all." Naruto then turned on his M's and ran off in a blur. His suspicion was confirmed as he drew nearer. Orochimaru himself was perched atop a 40-foot, tall, red and black snake that led the northern force. As he rose above the village, Naruto sprang forward and began to form his chakra cloak. He turned to see Orochimaru standing on top of the reincarnated Kyuubi. Kurama led the two beasts out of the village as they swiftly began biting and scratching at one another. Meanwhile, Naruto leapt to Orochimaru's head and confronted him. Naruto kicked Orochimaru into the air after spotting a gap in their taijutsu battle. Lightning style. Rasenrikurai, he shouted as he hurled a ball of compressed lighting in Orochimaru's direction after swiftly going through a series of hand seals. Orochimaru exclaimed, "Wind style, great breakthrough," as the Rasenrikurai was struck and dispersed by a wall of wind. Fire style. Fire Dragon Jutsu. Oro exhaled a huge stream of flames toward Naruto as he fell back toward Manda's head, breaking through a few more seals. After hurriedly going through his own seals, Naruto exclaimed, "Water style, Water Dragon Jutsu," and spit out a stream of water that struck the fire dragon with lightning speed. The entire area was covered in mist as the two attacks exploded. The mist blinded Orochimaru, but Naruto's Sharingan allowed him to see clearly. In an attempt to maintain his vigilance, Orochimaru stood atop Manda's head and looked around. Before hurling a wind-powered kunai at Oro, Naruto swiftly formed a Chidori. As Naruto had predicted, Oro ducked to avoid the kunai. After a red flash, he vanished. Just in time to avoid the red ball of lightning and backhand Naruto in the face, Orochimaru saw the red flash behind him. After falling off Manda's head, Naruto fell to the ground. He was about to strike when he recalled his training with Itachi and twisted around, resurfacing directly behind Oro. Naruto kicked Oro, but Oro jumped over the kick and then kicked Naruto in the ribs. He threw one of his kunai at Oro as he flew backwards, but the Snake Sanin was prepared and used wind jutsu to blow the kunai away. Through their mental link, Naruto heard Kurama say, "Kit, divert the snake and move aside. I'll finish this now." Before creating 10 shadow clones, Naruto teleported to the kunai that Oro had blown into the air. All of the clones began to move toward Oro, who was easily repelling them. Naruto sensed that the air around them was getting much denser, so he leapt back to Kurama's head while Oro was preoccupied. Before forming into a flawless sphere the size of a small car, a number of smaller black and white balls started to swirl in the direction of Kurama's mouth. Manda lost his balance after being struck by one of Kurama's tails, but he leapt back and threw the ball at the enormous snake. After finding a home, it detonated, destroying Manda and leveling 4 city blocks worth of forest. Everyone in the village, including enemies, paused to gaze in wonder at what they had just seen. However, they quickly resumed their fighting as if nothing had occurred. Naruto was happy that Oro was dead and that he had completed the task at hand. After a moment of surveying the area, he vanished in a flash of red. However, he failed to notice the numerous tiny white snakes that were sculling out of the crater. Sasuke was in the middle of killing Asuna Nin when Naruto and Sasuke returned. Naruto questioned, "You got things under control here?" "Yay, I've got it." Naruto created a couple hundred clones in their chakra cloaks and then leapt off as the clones joined the battle, saying, "Good, I've got a Jinchuriki to take care of." Even though his team was obviously winning, everyone was still fighting when Naruto returned to the stadium less than a minute later. A big ball of sand in the center of the arena floor was his target. He was aware that Gaara was changing into his Biju inside the ball. Quickly jumping to the ground, he said, "Lightning style, Rasenrikurai." While passing through some hand seals, he then threw the tiny ball of lightning at the sand, causing a huge explosion. Although the dome was not destroyed, it did blow a huge hole in its side, exposing Gaara, who was now shocked and wide-eyed at the idea that anything could get inside his dome. It took him a minute to realize that his arm was deeply cut through the sand armor by the explosion. The sight of his own blood was a first for him. Then he passed out with a scream that made my blood run down my spine. The seal had become weak enough for his Biju to take control now that Gaara was gone. As a mass of sand formed into the Shukaku beneath him, Gaara rapidly started to ascend 60 feet into the air. Gaara was only visible from his waist protruding from the Shukaku's head. Before the Shukaku could start his rampage, Naruto sprang up to it and grabbed it by the leg. Before there was a big red flash and the two were gone, he knew he had to move quickly. They resurfaced in the crater left by Naruto's battle with Orochimaru. As Kurama reformed beneath Naruto, he bounded back and shot into the air. "You stall the beast and I'll take care of the Jinchuriki to finish this," Naruto replied. "You got it, Kit. Minato is back in the stadium." The Case Cage swung a spike of gold dust at Minato, who swung a Rasengan and sprang forward to confront him. The Case Cage wrapped a spear around his hand and lunged at Minato, who dodged the spike and continued to run. Exactly what he desired. There was a flash of yellow as the cage lunged forward. He was aware of what this meant, but the flesh on his back tore away before he could react. He smashed into the wall after flying across the cage box, and then he felt another pain in his back, this time a sharp one, as Minato destroyed the wall by launching a wind style Rasengan straight through his chest. The cage was soon dead and everything darkened. The crowd below caught Minato's attention, and just as he turned to help them, he saw that everything was under control. The remaining members of the invasion force were being eliminated by the Leaf forces and roughly 50 Naruto clones. Then he leapt to the roof and saw that everything else appeared to be in order. He made the decision to go to the office and attempt to resolve everything that had occurred. With Sasuke's team, a man with black markings and a big bone tail slammed a bone spear into the ground, and Sasuke leapt out of the way. With his hand covered in lightning and the sound of 1,000 birds chirping filling the air, Sasuke hurriedly went through some hand seals. A normal eye couldn't keep up with the speed at which he ran back towards the man. The man hurled a bone shield in an attempt to halt the attack, but it only slightly decelerated it. The Chidori entered the man's chest after passing entirely through the shield. As Sasuke let his body drop to the ground, he coughed up some blood and rolled his eyes back in his head. Lee yelled, "Primary Lotus," and kicked the girl into the air, her hair red and her body covered in black marks. Lee hurried after her, wrapped the girl in his bandages, and began to spin as they got close to the peak. Lee released her and leapt away just as they were about to collide with the earth. She crashed into the earth, leaving a sizable crater in her wake. Her neck was twisted so that it was clear she was dead. As his shadow restrained the six-armed man with the black markings, Shikamaru declared, "Shadow possession complete." Just as Hinata delivered the initial blow, Shikamaru's jutsu was released. "Thanks, Shikamaru. You are now within my field of divination. 8 trigrams 64 palms," they said. Hinata shut down all of his tenketsu and yelled, 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. She drove her palm down one last time, destroying his brain as he collapsed to the ground, immobile. 2 Naruto clones simultaneously exclaimed, "Collaboration technique, Hurricane Rasengan," as one threw a Rasen Shuriken and the other a water style Rasengan. Together, the 2 attacks created a tornado covered in water. He was encircled by a column of water when the attack struck the fat red head with the black markings. Several pieces of him fell to the ground with the water when it subsided. "Rakery!" exclaimed Kakashi as he pierced the horned-headed man's heart with his black markings. As Kakashi withdrew his arm and the man collapsed to the ground, his eyes rolled back and he coughed up blood. Another place, with Jiraiya standing on top of Gamabunta's head, Jiraiya yelled, "Give M hell Bunta. Drinks are on me tonight." Gamabunta was using his big tanto to chop down Sand Ninja and Sound from left to right. Alongside Itachi, the blonde Suna Kunoichi yelled, "Sickle Weasel Jutsu," as she waved her fan and several wind blades rushed in Itachi's direction. With the Sharingan in hand, he was able to see the blades clearly and easily avoided them all. "Fire style. Fire Dragon Jutsu," he exclaimed as he breathed a huge stream of fire at the girl, swiftly flashing through some hand seals. She made a deadly error that would cost her the battle when she leapt out of the way. Her eyes met Itachi's as she looked up to see him. She passed out after spending 18 hours in the Tsukiyomi world witnessing Gaara change, murder, and destroy Suna. Alongside Tsunade broke a puppet into 1,000 pieces by punching it in the chest. Then she bounded over to the puppeteer. In an attempt to delay the inevitable, he leapt aside. Now that she had destroyed his last puppet, he had nothing left. She was on top of him as soon as he touched down, and a strategically placed chakra scalpel sliced through his brain, causing him to collapse to the ground lifeless. Naruto is back. With a swift flick of one of his tails, Kurama knocked the Shukaku off balance. He hurled a huge ball of wind at Kurama as he staggered backward. As he exhaled a stream of white-hot fire in the direction of the Shukaku, Kurama slapped the ball away with his tail. To divert the fireball, the Shukaku blew out a stream of wind. Then, Kurama leapt close enough for Naruto to get to the head of the Shukaku. Leaping across, he created a Rasengan and rammed it into the unconscious Gaara's stomach. In an attempt to stop the attack, a wall of sand erupted, but it only served to slow it down. Gaara was blasted out of the demon's head, and it blasted straight through the wall and into him. Now that his host was awake, the Shukaku began to disintegrate. A man wearing a trench coat, like yellow shroud of chakra, materialized above Gaara, who was lying there staring straight up at the sky. He didn't even make an effort to speak. His world turned black as he saw the man going through a lengthy series of hand seals before the man's arm approached him. A number of black lines encircled Gaara from the spot where Naruto's hand touched, and he withdrew it before saying, "Seal." Naruto picked up the unconscious red head shortly after and vanished in a flash of red. When Naruto returned, he placed Gaara on the floor of his father's office. Minato asked, "Are you okay, Naruto?" "Yeah, Dad, I'm fine. How's everyone else?" "We have pushed most of the invasion out of the village, and we have a few people mopping up as we speak. We suffered very few casualties on our side while the enemy forces faced almost total losses. I killed the Kazekage, so the sand will be hard-pressed now and will almost have to give in to whatever terms we set. I captured his son, as you can see. I also killed the Otokage." When Minato asked, "You killed Orochimaru?" his eyes grew wide. "Yes, there was nothing left of him though. I see. I am very proud of you, son. Orochimaru was renowned as one of the strongest men in the world." As Naruto moved to the side of the desk and let the Anbu in, Minato said, "Enter." At that moment, there was a knock on the door. "Sir, we have finished the last of the invaders, and are now doing away with the bodies. We have an estimated 75 killed and 120 more injured, ranging from minor to severe, though most are expected to make it." As the Anbu vanished in a whirl of leaves, Minato said, "Thank you, you are dismissed." "So Naruto, can you take me to where you killed Orochimaru?" "Sure," Naruto said, reaching out to place a hand on Minato's shoulder before they vanished in a burst of crimson. They resurfaced in the woods outside the village in a sizable crater. Minato gazed in wonder at the damage. The fact that his own son had done this astounded him. "So how did you kill him?" "Well, it was mostly Kurama. I distracted him and Kurama used a Bijudama." With a hand on Naruto's shoulder, Minato said, "Okay son, that's fine. I'll have the Anbu investigate later. Let's head home." Then, in a flash of yellow, was gone. When they returned to the Hokage office, they simply took a seat to rest for a while before continuing their work. Naturally, Minato spent the entire day meeting with people and gathering information from different Anbu regarding the attack. In the grand scheme of things, they were fortunate. They had defeated the enemy force and the worst traitor our village had ever encountered, with only minor casualties. Naruto hurried to check on Ino and make sure she was okay. She discovered her and her group cleaning up the area near the northern wall, which had sustained the most damage. He created a few hundred shadow clones and distributed them throughout the village to assist those in need. After a week, the village was beginning to operate normally again. The cleanup had been going smoothly, and nearly all of the damage had been fixed. Now Suna and Otto's terms of surrender were all that was left. At the west gate, Kakashi, Itachi, Naruto, and Sasuke were all prepared to leave. After saying their last goodbyes, they set out on a 3-day journey to Suna. The man with the Venus fly trap over his head said, "Sir, we have heard that the Kyuubi is leaving his village for a mission to Suna, even though he is accompanied by 3 other Junin. Shall we act on this?" "Yes, we cannot let this opportunity pass. Send Kakuzu, Hidan, Deidara, and Sasori to intercept him." "As you wish, Lord Pain." The group had made camp and halted for the night. While the others slept, Itachi was currently on watch, sitting next to the fire. Suddenly, he sensed 4 sizable chakra signatures coming their way. He had everyone on guard after swiftly and silently waking them up. As he left the camp, he yelled, "We know you are there. Show yourselves." A hunchbacked man said in a deep, rough voice, "I am impressed that you noticed. However, it will do no good. We come for the Jinchuriki. If you hand him over to us, we will not harm you." Itachi said, "I'm afraid I cannot allow you to take him." The man said, "Then you leave us no choice, kill him." The blond man reached into a pouch on his side and threw out 3 small birds that soon grew to the size of regular birds, saying, "You got it, Sasori, my man." Itachi simply stood there while the birds rushed forward at him. After colliding with him, all 3 of them burst into a massive fireball. After emerging from the fireball, a number of ravens reformed into Itachi and fled. After that, Itachi performed some hand seals and blew out a huge ball of fire at the 4 assailants while uttering the words, "Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu." They dispersed rapidly to get away from it. An enormous spiked metal rod passed through Itachi's chest, and he stood firm once more. He vanished into crows once more and resurfaced next to the Sasori who had jabbed his tail at him. In reference to Sasori, he said, "You do realize that you and your band of rejects stand no chance against me." As a lightning bolt ripped through Itachi, Sasori said, "We will kill you. Do not worry about that." He vanished into ravens as he had in the past and this time materialized behind the most recent assailant. With a quick tanto, he stabbed the man 5 times, once in the head and once in each of the masks on his back. Because of his Sharingan, Itachi was able to see that each of them had a beating heart. Dead, the man fell to the ground. Another man said, "What the hell are you?" From behind Itachi. "How could you know of Kakuzu's weakness?" When the man with the sleek gray hair and the three-pronged scythe first saw his Sharingan, Itachi remarked, "Simple-minded fool. I can see everything with these eyes." With a hint of concern in his voice, the man said, "Itachi Uchiha." "Yes, it would appear that I am," Itachi replied. The man with gray hair yelled, "Too bad, I'm going to have to kill you," as he leapt at Itachi and drew his scythe. As Itachi transformed into ravens and took off into the woods, he swept the blades straight through him. "Perhaps you should pay more attention to your surroundings," was then said by a voice that seemed to be coming from everywhere at once before disappearing into the night. Team Sharingan had made camp and halted for the night. While the others slept, Itachi was currently on watch, sitting next to the fire. Suddenly, he sensed 4 sizable chakra signatures coming their way. He had everyone on guard after swiftly and silently waking them up. As he left the camp, he yelled, "We know you are there. Show yourselves." A hunchbacked man said in a deep, rough voice, "I am impressed that you noticed. However, it will do no good. We come for the Jinchuriki. If you hand him over to us, we will not harm you." Itachi said, "I'm afraid I cannot allow you to take him." The man said, "Then you leave us no choice, kill him." The blonde man reached into a pouch on his side and threw out 3 small birds that soon grew to the size of regular birds, saying, "You got it, Sasori, my man." Itachi simply stood there while the birds rushed forward at him. After colliding with him, all 3 of them burst into a massive fireball. A number of ravens reformed into Itachi a few feet away after flying out of the fireball. After that, Itachi performed some hand seals and blew out a huge ball of fire at the 4 assailants while uttering the words, "Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu." They dispersed rapidly to get away from it. An enormous spiked metal rod passed through Itachi's chest, and he stood firm once more. He vanished into crows once more and resurfaced next to the Sasori who had jabbed his tail at him. In reference to Sasori, he said, "You do realize that you and your band of rejects stand no chance against me." As a lightning bolt ripped through Itachi, Sasori said, "We will kill you. Do not worry about that." He vanished into ravens as he had in the past and this time materialized behind the most recent assailant. With a quick taunto, he stabbed the man 5 times, once in the head and once in each of the masks on his back. Because of his Sharingan, Itachi was able to see that each of them had a beating heart. Dead, the man fell to the ground. Another man said, "What the hell are you?" From behind Itachi. "How could you know of Kakuzu's weakness?" When the man with the sleek gray hair and the 3-pronged scythe first saw his Sharingan, Itachi remarked, "Simple-minded fool. I can see everything with these eyes." With a hint of concern in his voice, the man said, "Itachi Uchiha." "Yes, it would appear that I am," Itachi replied. The man with gray hair yelled, "Too bad, I'm going to have to kill you," as he leapt at Itachi and drew his scythe. As Itachi transformed into ravens and took off into the woods, he swept the blades straight through him. "Perhaps you should pay more attention to your surroundings," was then said by a voice that seemed to be coming from everywhere at once before disappearing into the night. They all stood talking while Naruto and the others watched from behind Itachi. Itachi was the only one to move thus far, approaching the big man wearing a mask and stabbing him 4 times in the back and once in the back of the head. The man with the hunchback abruptly leapt away from the group. Kakashi just jumped over to the man performing hand seals and said, "I got this one." Before the man could react, he drove his arm into his face after his hand became covered in lightning as he got closer. Kakashi was shocked to see that there was only wood splinters and no blood. It was a puppet. Shuck. It was too late, as a young voice said, "Congratulations, it has been a while since I've had to show my true form." A fist struck the side of Kakashi's head, knocking him out cold. The mon that Kakashi had just killed then had a young red-headed man climb out of it. As a saw blade emerged from his wrist, he leapt swiftly in Kakashi's direction. He heard what sounded like 1,000 birds chirping to his left before he could get to Kakashi. Just as Sasuke's lightning-covered hand smashed through his face, he turned to look. He went backwards and landed on the ground motionless. Naruto made the decision that they would no longer play games after Sasuke had finished with the puppet man. As a Rasen Ryukyu, water-style, spiraling torrent, formed in one arm and a Rasen Shuriken in the other, he extended both arms. As the attack swept toward the man with the blonde hair and merged, encircling him in a tornado of water, he thrust both hands forward. Screaming in agony, he woke up from Itachi's genjutsu. The screams ceased after a few seconds, and the tornado soon followed. Fragments of Deidara fell to the ground below as the attack subsided. Naruto heard Sasuke scream just as he was ready to attack Hidan as well. The puppet man that Sasuke had killed with a spike pierced his stomach was visible when he turned around. Itachi lost concentration when Sasuke screamed, so he dropped the genjutsu on the other member. Taking advantage of the distraction, the other member kicked Itachi in the ribs, knocking him out. While Hidan was distracted, he sped in Naruto's direction, cocking his scythe back and ready to strike. A red flash appeared in front of him just as he was about to swing towards Naruto, and then he felt a sharp pain in his chest. A red arm covered in lightning protruded from his chest as he looked down. Before he knew it, he had been kicked in the head and was skipping across the floor. Itachi rolled just in time to avoid a barrage of senbon piercing the ground where he was after Hidan's blow. As two puppets charged at him, he jumped to his feet and began racing through some hand seals. He completed the seals just as the puppets were about to attack, and then he said, "Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu." A huge ball of fire shot out of his mouth and engulfed the puppets. One of the puppets was saved by Sasori's prompt action, but the other was destroyed. That cost him one of his favorite puppets, and he cursed. Sasori took out a scroll and opened another puppet, this time the third cage, and said, well, you managed to destroy my father puppet. No biggie though, after I kill you I shall make you his replacement. Without wasting any time, he had the puppet conjure up a great mass of his iron sand, shape it into a huge spear, and launch it at Itachi at a terrifying speed. He didn't have enough time to duck, but Itachi saw it coming. As the big spear struck him and created a huge dust cloud, blood began to seep out of his right eye. Sasori was shocked to see Itachi standing firmly where the spear struck, inside a purple, ethereal demon soldier, after the dust had settled. After the initial shock subsided, Sasori was genuinely furious that someone had managed to destroy his iron sand, but the emotion was short-lived as he had to avoid Hidan's body as it flew toward him. Naruto was racing toward him at a high speed when he turned to face the direction from which Hidan had come. Sasori chose that moment to collapse from chakra exhaustion, so Itachi believed it was fortunate that Naruto diverted his attention. His endurance had never been strong, and the Susanoo had exhausted him. Before he passed out, he was able to crawl over to the tree where Sasuke and Kakashi were. His hope that Naruto could defeat two of them simultaneously was the last thing he recalled. Naruto swung out at Sasori, who leapt sideways to avoid him. After rapidly slowing down, Naruto launched a spinning backhand that struck Sasori in the face and knocked him out. Naruto leapt back towards Hidan, who had just regained his footing, after Sasori was launched into the air. Naruto threw a punch at Hidan, who blocked it with his scythe. He deflected the blow, but the force of it knocked him back a few feet. His kick then struck Naruto's ribcage as he swung out around the pole. Before he flipped and got his feet back, Naruto flew back a few feet. Immediately after landing, he sensed someone behind him and leapt to his side as a puppet brandishing a saw blade slammed into the ground. He was completely taken aback by what he saw when he turned to face the puppet. He was staring out at what seemed like 100 puppets in front of Sasori. From behind the puppets, Sasori said, "Red secret technique. Performance of 100 puppets. I'm very surprised at your strength, Kyuubi. I once used this technique to destroy an entire village. To think I would have to use is just to beat one kid says a lot." As 100 shadow clones materialized next to him, Naruto remarked, "Well, against anyone else, this would be bad, but numbers mean nothing to me." As chaos erupted, Sasori said, "Impressive, but it will do you no good in the end." Sasori's puppets and Naruto's clones were engaged in a full-scale battle, and it soon became evident that the puppets were superior to the clones as their numbers decreased and they only destroyed a small number of the puppets. Covered in the yellow shroud of chakra, Naruto summoned the chakra of Kurama during the battle between the clones. A huge tornado erupted from Naruto's arm and transformed into a dragon as he held his arm out and flashed through a series of hand seals using the new power boost. While the dragon tore through the throng of puppets, he exclaimed, "Wind style. Wind dragon jutsu." He used it to take out roughly 10 more of the puppets, but he had to avoid Hidan's scythe before he could celebrate. One of the puppets slammed down on him as soon as he touched down, forcing him to dodge once more. He would not survive if he didn't come up with a quick solution. Running away from Hidan and the puppets, he stayed on the defensive until one of them finally clipped his leg. The cut felt like someone injecting fire into his veins, and he collapsed on one knee. As he moved to the front of his puppet army, Sasori said, "It's over for you now, Kyuubi. That is the most powerful poison known to man. It causes paralysis for 3 days before death, and I'm the only one who has the antidote for it." Naruto grunted, "That's where you are wrong. Thanks to the Kyuubi, I am immune to all poisons. Though it does say a lot that it is affecting me this much." Very well then, I need you to be alive anyways, but I'm not through having fun yet. You will pay for destroying so many of my puppets. As two of Sasori's puppets approached, seized his arms, and lifted him up, Naruto said, HN. As the third Cage puppet moved in front of him, Naruto thought, looks like it really is over for me. This poison is messing me up big time. Sasuke regained consciousness around this time, but he was immobilized and in terrible pain. He guessed it was probably poison of some sort. He became aware of Naruto's situation at that moment. Despite his best efforts, he was unable to will himself to stand and do anything to assist him. All he could do was sit and watch as Naruto was struck by a huge spear of what appeared to be black sand that had formed in front of one of the puppets. Naruto screamed out in what appeared to be pain as the spear hit its target and a huge cloud of dust formed. Before the agony got too much and he passed out, Sasuke's eyes felt as though they had been set on fire. From Naruto's perspective, before it turned into a huge spear, the third Cage conjured up a lot of his iron sand and flew in his direction. Everything went blurry, and the last thing he remembered was the agonizing pain in his eyes. Sasori's point of view when he heard the Kyuubi container scream in agony, he could only smirk. He hoped he hadn't gone too far and killed the brat, but he deserved it for being so annoying. However, that thought was short-lived because the iron spear he aimed at Naruto impaled itself through his chest, striking the only organic part of his body at his heart. He pondered what had happened when the dust settled and the boy was standing there unharmed as the world turned to darkness. Before he looked at the boy, he was momentarily perplexed. He had previously seen those eyes on their organization's leader. He became aware of what had happened at that moment, and he vanished. Normal once more. Hidan was startled to see the big iron spear fly back away from Naruto and strike Sasori after pausing to allow Sasori to complete the task. He glanced quickly at the boy standing there, untarnished, in the now clearing dust cloud. "What the fuck are you?" exclaimed Hidan. He felt a pull on his body as Naruto held up an arm, and the only response he received was Bansho Tenin. He was then jerked off his feet and toward Naruto. Red lights began to dance around Naruto's arm as he approached, sending arcs of light in all directions. When the arm smashed through his head and everything went dark, he tried to stop but was powerless. Naruto's chakra cloak vanished, and he fell to one knee once more as the world whirled around him, Hidan now dead, or as dead as he could be. From a few feet away, he could see his team in poor shape. He was aware that he needed to remain awake long enough to return to Konoha with them all. He searched his equipment pouch and discovered the bottle of pills he was seeking. As he approached his fallen team, he took one out and swallowed it. When he got to them, he created 4 shadow clones. While Naruto grabbed Sasuke, 2 of the clones grabbed Kakashi and Itachi, and they vanished in 3 red flashes of light. The other 2 cleaned up and sealed the Akatsuki's bodies before they also vanished. Minato was preparing to leave his office for the evening while seated at his desk. He had a bad feeling about something, but he wasn't sure why. He got up to go, trying to ignore the sensation, but as soon as he reached the door, he heard 4 thuds on the floor and saw a red flash behind him. Knowing that only one person could be to blame, he turned around quickly. His stomach turned to knots at what he was seeing. The unconscious bodies of Sasuke, Itachi, and Kakashi lay on the floor in front of him. Naruto appeared to be having difficulty maintaining his own consciousness. Knowing that their mission was to locate the 2 top medics in Konoha, Minato swiftly created 2 shadow clones, one of which vanished in a yellow flash and the other of which ran out the door. Naruto muttered, "Takeda called themselves a Akatsuki Ami and Sasuke a Poisona," as he also passed out. Minato exclaimed, "Shit," as 3 more clones materialized next to him. After picking up the 4 unconscious shinobi, they vanished in a dazzling burst of yellow light. The house of Minato rushed through the back door while Tsunade and Jiraiya were enjoying a drink and talking to each other on the back patio. Naruto's team just returned, and they are all badly injured. "I need you at the hospital with me now." "Another clone is gone to find Shizune now," said the clone of Minato. Tsunade exclaimed, "Okay, let's go," as she and Jiraiya leapt to their feet. The clone flashed away after placing a hand on each of their shoulders. The house of Shizune heard a desperate knock on her front door as she was getting comfortable on the couch to read a book. Shizune wondered as she made her way to the door, who could that be at this time of night? To her surprise, the Hokage was standing there when she reached the door and opened it. "Shizune, Naruto's team was attacked and is now in bad shape. You are needed at the hospital," said Minato. Shizune almost screamed, "Oh god, let's go then." She was worried about Naruto, who she considered to be her younger brother. Before they both vanished, Minato put a hand to her shoulder. "Hospital in Konoha." Before the Hokage's stern voice could be heard, A bright yellow flash suddenly appeared in the hospital lobby. "I need 4 rooms now," he said. As soon as the medical ninjas poured into the room and began diagnostics, the nurse behind the desk got up and led the group down the hallway and into their individual rooms. Shortly after, Tsunade entered medic mode, and Jiraiya and she rushed into Naruto's room with Minato. She walked to Naruto's bedside and said, "Report." The physician examined her and stated, "Minor case of chakra exhaustion, and some small scrapes and cuts. He also has some kind of poison that we have never seen before, but it seems as if it is being suppressed right now." Surprised, Tsunade questioned, "Poison we've never seen?" "Yes, Lady Tsunade, I have no idea what it may be." Minato, who was a little upset that he had to send assistance away from his son, said, "Tsunade, I think Sasuke was also poisoned, and he doesn't have the same immune system as Naruto. You should worry about him for now." As Tsunade entered Sasuke's room through the door, she said, "All right. I'll see about the poison, just treat the minor injuries and try to draw out the poison if possible." Tsunade told the medic tending to Sasuke, "Report. He has a stab wound through the abdomen, it didn't hit any vital spots, but he has been poisoned, and it's spreading, albeit slowly." "I see. I'll take over it from here, see if the other rooms need assistance." As he left the room, the medic said, "Yes, Lady Tsunade." Before Shizune ran down the hall to Naruto's room, there was another yellow flash in the lobby. With a worried expression on her face, she asked, "How is he?" After arriving. "He is stable, Shizune. Sama, we are treating for chakra exhaustion and trying to draw out poison," the doctor replied. "Shizune, I know you're worried, but there are 2 more who may need your help more than Naruto," reiterated Minato. She said, "Oh, right." Before leaving to stop by and see how Itachi and Kakashi were doing. Itachi suffered from a mild case of chakra exhaustion, while Kakashi suffered a rather severe concussion. Before entering Sasuke's room next door, she assisted in treating Kakashi. As she entered, Shizune asked, "Do you need assistance, milady?" Tsunade handed her a small vial full of a disgusting looking liquid and said, "Actually, yes. I need you to analyze this. I've never seen anything like it before, it's the poison that was used on Naruto and Sasuke." Rushing to the lab, Shizune said, "Yes, milady." An hour or so later, Naruto finally woke up following the final hour of actively healing him with Kurama's assistance. He sat up and asked, "Where am I?" as he noticed Jiraiya and his father. "You're in Konoha, in the hospital. How do you feel?" "Like death. I was fighting a guy with 100 puppets the last time I remembered that, and then I had a terrible pain in my eyes. Now I'm here." At that moment, Jiraiya and Minato both caught sight of Naruto's eyes and were completely taken aback by what they saw. Flashback. About 33 years ago, on Mount Myoboku, Fukasaku addressed the teenage sage in front of him, saying, "Jiraiya. Boy, the elder toad wants to speak with Ya. But I can't handle it, I'm exhausted from training." Thwack. "Oh my god, what was that?" Thwack. "Will you stop? I'm leaving now." While being struck in the head by the tiny toad, Jiraiya said this. Following their exchange, Fukasaku escorted Jiraiya into a temple where, at the end of a long room, an ancient toad sat on a throne. "Jiraiya. Boy is here to see Ya." "Yeah, Jiraiya. Again, who is that?" As Fukasaku attempted to clarify, Jiraiya perspired at this, saying, "Jiraiya. Boy. The prophecy?" "Yeah, I now remember. I've seen a prophecy, Jiraiya. It indicates to me that you are responsible for raising a powerful child. That child will either end up saving the world or destroying it when the time comes." "Are you serious?" "Never will I." Thwack. "Damn it. What else is stated in the prophecy, then?" "Which prophecy?" As Jiraiya and Fukasaku both started to perspire, the elder toad said. "Returning to the medical facility, I initially believed it might be Nagato, but he passed away, so it couldn't be. Minato followed, but I believe the elder toad saw Naruto in his prophecy. Ultimately, it is said that the Rinnegan is only created to either destroy or save the world during periods of extreme calamity. That wasn't the case with Nagato's, though." Jiraiya thought. "Is the Rinnegan there? I believe that to be merely a myth," Minato said, his astonishment evident in his tone. "Not exactly. Naruto is, in my opinion, the third person to possess it." "Third person?" "Naturally, the Rakudo Sennin was the first. The second was an AIM orphan I had previously tutored before your team. Naruto now. It is said that the eyes are only given to the world when it is in dire need, and they have the power to either save or destroy it. Do you believe that Naruto is the prophecy child?" "Yes. What are you two discussing?" Naruto added. "Your eyes are there different now." "Different? but I've only recently begun to learn the others, Naruto whimpered. Only 2 other people have ever had those eyes, so it's good, son. However, we will discuss this later. How did you and your group fare? Well, Naruto described what transpired during their camping trip, adding that his clones ought to have placed a scroll alongside the bodies on Minato's desk. A man with 100 puppets, that sounds like Sasori of the Red Sand to me, Jiraiya replied. Hey, I think someone did say something about Sasori, Naruto replied. Jiraiya said as he left, I see, I should let Tsunade know that. I'm happy you're alright, son. You had to deal with 4S rank missing Nin. Yeah, I'm happy too. I should have died, and it was the hardest battle I've ever been in. I suppose it was the eyes that saved me because I can hardly recall the end now. Well, how are the others doing? Well, Sasuke was badly poisoned, they are still treating him. Kakashi has a concussion, but he is already awake, and Itachi had mild chakra exhaustion, so he'll probably be out until tomorrow at least. How long must I stay, then? You're free to go, but on rest for now. Before he got up, stretched, and vanished in a red flash of light, Naruto said, Okay Thina, I guess I'm gonna go home and rest for the night, I'm still kind of tired. The room of Sasuke Shizune entered the room and said, Lady Tsunade, I have the analysis you asked for here. As Jiraiya entered the room, Tsunade took Shizune's report and studied it, wondering what could possibly cure such a complex poison. Hey Slug. Haim, Naruto just said that he believes Sasori of the Red Sand was the one who poisoned them. When Tsunade learned that he was the grandson of her biggest rivala, who also happens to be among the world's most skilled poison user, her eyes widened. I see a Shizune, have Minato get me a team together, I need some ingredients from outside of the village to make an antidote. Shizune said, Yes m'lady, and departed once more. After half an hour, we were instructed to report to you by Hokage Sama. Shikamaru, who was now wearing a Chunin vest over his usual attire, said. Tsunade handed Shikamaru a list and said, Yes, I need you and your team to go find these plants for me. Where can we possibly locate these plants? The second team member, Ino, who was also wearing a Chunin vest, said. I believe that they grow in the area around the northwestern border of Fire Country. I need these things as soon as possible, so leave first thing in the morning please. As the 2 current team members left to rest for the mission, they chortled, Yes ma'am. The village's east gate in the morning. Shikamaru and Ino waited at the gate for the other members of their team to arrive. After 10 minutes or so, 2 figures appeared, and upon closer inspection, they were identified as Neji and Hinata Hyuga. Alright, are you all prepared? Shikamaru addressed the small group of shinobi with this question. Everyone echoed, yes. As they hurried out the gate, Shikamaru sighed and said, Okay, let's get this troublesome mission over with. Okay, we'll take a break here for about an hour before we move out again. We should make it within 4 more hours after we leave. Shikamaru leaned against a tree and said, Okay, we'll take a break here for about an hour before we move out again. The group went to the treetops to move more quickly and avoid as much traffic as possible after about 4 hours of running. After an hour had gone by, the group started off again in the direction of the border, reached it without any problems, and used the 2 Hyugas Byakugan and Ino's knowledge of flowers to find the plants that Tsunade had asked for. After they had all been identified, the group made the decision to camp and depart the next morning. Unknown location. The man who looked like a Venus flytrap said, Pain. Sama, it seems like the teams you sent after the Kyuubi were killed. He and his team are quite powerful. Yes, Zetsu, it appears that he could cause us problems. In any case, we can gather the other Jinchuriki for the time being. The plan won't start for another 3 years. Yes, I suppose you are right. Yes. Try to locate some new recruits to replace the ones we lost for the time being. Zetsu sank into the earth and said, As you wish. The following morning, with the Nara team, all right, are you all prepared to leave? As Shikamaru's crew completed tidying up their campsite, he spoke in a languid tone. Before they began to leap into the trees, everyone else chortled, yes. Just hold it there, an unidentified voice spoke up behind the group. All right, what have we got here? Shinobi from Konoha this far from home? A second voice spoke next to the first. When Team Nara's 4 members swiftly turned around, they saw 2 shinobi standing there wearing Iwajunin clothing. Shikamaru began formulating a plan in his mind and muttered, Troublesome, and to what do we owe the honor? We were just passing through when we noticed a young group of shinobi from Konoha, and decided, what a wonderful way to get back at that bastard of a Hokage than to kill some of his up-and-coming shinobi, according to the first Iwa shinobi. You are aware that this might spark a new conflict, right? Neji said. The Iwa shinobi once again said, Not if you don't make it back to tell anyone. He drew a kunai and lunged directly at Hinata, oblivious to Shikamaru's hand seals, but Neji knocked him away with a palm strike just as he was ready to do so. As she dropped into the Hyuga fighting stance with Ni-san, Hinata said, "Thank you Ni-san." "Damn it Kiro, are 4 kids going to kill you?" As the now identified Kiro landed on the ground next to him, the second Iwa shinobi laughed. "Stop talking, Uraza. Simply put, I didn't anticipate them fighting back. Simply murder them." As the two leapt back towards the group, Kiro became enraged. "Gosh," Shikamaru thought, "I almost had them," as his shadow moved back to pursue them once more. When Kiro approached, Hinata triggered her Byakugan and sprang forward to confront him, and after a minute or so of taijutsu, Neji intervened. He smirked and said, "You are in my area of divination. 8 trigrams, 64 palms." As Neji hit the man twice, Hinata leapt back, saying, "2 palms, and 4 more times. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms." When he was done, his hands were moving quickly before he stopped, causing Kiro to fall to the ground. "Kiro," as he slashed at Neji with a kunai, Uraza said. Neji just took a step aside and hit the man's shoulder, causing him to drop the kunai as he let out a painful scream. "Brat, what the devil did you do to me? I just sealed off that shoulder's tenketsu. If you live that long, the sensation will return in roughly 15 minutes. As if a group of fucking kids could kill me." Uraza said this as he tried to leap in the direction of the group once more but realized he was losing control of his body. Shikamaru stood up straight, forcing Uraza to follow suit, and said, "Thanks for stalling him, Neji, Kagemain success. Now, Ino, if you would." Before her body sagged, she sat down and said, "Right." After his body jerked due to Ino entering his mind, Uraza said, "Okay, it's me." After letting go of his shadow, Shikamaru approached Kiro, took out a sealing scroll, and sealed the man inside. When the sealing was finished, he saw Azara's body jerk again before Ino got to his feet and collapsed to the ground, blood streaming from his mouth, ears, and eyes. "Well done, Ino." With a faint smirk, he remarked, "It would be problematic if I ever got on your bad side." After disposing of the body, the 4-person group continued their journey without incident. In the evening, Minato's office. Minato heard a knock on the door and said, "Enter." Shikamaru Nara and his group entered through the open door before Shikamaru uttered the words, "Mission success, Hokage." Sama. Except for encountering 2 Iwa shinobi, everything was fine. Iwa shinobi. What took place? We easily defeated them because they misjudged us. As he gave Minato a scroll, Shikamaru said, "Here is one of them." "I understand. You are dismissed, but would you kindly stop by the hospital to inform Tsunade of your findings?" The 4 of them turned and walked out of the office, saying, "Yes sir." After 2 days. "How long until Sasuke's release, Aunt Tsunade?" asked Naruto outside Sasuke Uchiha's hospital room. Naruto.kun, he should be out in a few days. Tsunade replied, "The antidote I made is working, but he still needs to be watched while he rests." "All right, may I now see him?" "Sure, he should be awake by now." "Many thanks." Naruto ran through the door, half shouting, "Hi, Sasuke. Hey, dude." Sasuke, who was actually happy to see Naruto because the last thing he saw that night before he passed out was Naruto dying. "I'm glad to see you're not dead. You had me worried that I'd have to come to hell to kick your ass," he said. Rewind. "Where am I, Naruto?" With concern in his voice, the now conscious Sasuke yelled. "Whoa, what's the matter with Naruto?" Tsunade said as she entered the room. Sasuke's eyes began to well up with tears as he exclaimed, "He's dead. I watched him get killed by the puppet man." "Naruto is fine, he is the one who brought you here," Tsunade said in a calming tone. "No, calm down." "But I saw him. I assure you that Sasuke-kun is doing well. Since you're awake now, he'll most likely stop by to see you first thing in the morning." "Really?" Sasuke stopped for a moment before looking Tsunade in the eyes as 3 Tomo appeared before spinning into 3 red ellipticals overlapping on a black background. "How did I get the Mangekyo then?" "Well, I'm not sure, but perhaps the emotional pain was sufficient to trigger it because you genuinely thought you witnessed his death." "I suppose that sounds accurate. Simply put, I'm relieved he's still alive." "Me too Sasuke-kun, returning to the present. You think I could be killed by anyone? I'm going to be a badass, with a shit-eating grin," Naruto said. "Yes, I am capable of kicking your ass at any time. Particularly with these," Sasuke said, triggering his Sharingan before the Tomo whirled into his Mangekyo. How did you obtain the Mangekyo? Wow. Well, I thought you kind of died while I was watching. The puppet guy using a large-ass spike to own you was the last thing I saw before fainting. Oh yay, I thought I died too, but just like you my eyes changed. You already possessed the most potent Sharingan, how did you change? Naruto's blue eyes turned white with multiple purple rings around the pupil, and he said, apparently there is one step further than the M's. Itachi actually, literally, pissed himself when I told him about it. What is that? Sasuke said, perplexed. Naruto grinned broadly and laughed, saying, it's called the Rinnegan. We don't really know yet what it can do though, besides kick your ass. Once I leave this miserable place, we'll see about that, with a smile of his own, Sasuke said. In other places an Enbu Captain and Team 7 Jonin Sensei was sitting in the library in the Uchiha compound, searching through the books to see what he could learn about the Rinnegan for Naruto. He had so far only discovered that it was supposedly the eye of the SO6P and most likely a myth. After 2 hours of searching, he finally came up with an idea. He recalled that day when he brought Naruto to the Naraka Shrine, when Naruto told him that there was another language that he couldn't read. With that thought in mind, he took out the paper tag he was carrying with Naruto's Hiraishin seal on it, and channeled some chakra into it. Returning to the medical facility, Itachi is calling me right now, so it appears he has discovered something about the Rinnegan. See you later, Sasuke. I'll be back. Fuck you. Naruto had already flashed away when Sasuke said this, so it was too late. Back at the compound of Uchiha. How are you doing, Naruto-kun? I'm doing fine. Sasuke is finally awake now, and I just got out of the hospital. That's great, and I'll visit him shortly. I learned something new regarding the Rinnegan. What is it? Cool. Do you recall the day you read the tablet from Uchiha? You mentioned that you had trouble reading a certain passage, correct? Yay, at the end, it was like it was in another language or something. Well, I think the Rinnegan was the intended audience for that passage. Do you want to go give it another go? Alright, let's go. As the two began their journey to the shrine, Naruto said. They took a quick stroll to the shrine and then went to the secret basement to see if he could figure out the last of the Uchiha's secrets. As Itachi said, can you read the bottom? Naruto began to examine the tablet. Naruto read the tablet aloud to Itachi, revealing the secrets, including the 7 paths and their functions. Yes, it's clear as day now. Well, that is fascinating. It really is a god's eye. Later, at the Namikaze property, Itachi, Naruto, Minato, and Jiraiya gathered in the training grounds to test out some of Naruto's new skills following his visit with Sasuke. So Naruto-kun, can you still use your Sharingan techniques with the Rinnegan active? Rinnegan active, Naruto turned to face a target positioned a few feet away, then directed some chakra toward his eyes and muttered, Amaterasu. Before Naruto put out the black flames, said target was engulfed in them. Good, now what about the Rinnegan techniques? As the target tore from the ground and flew a few feet away, Naruto raised his hand in the direction of the same target and uttered the words, Shinra Tensai. Jiraiya exclaimed in amazement, wow, that could definitely be useful. Minato, who was equally astounded by the abilities, asked, what else can it do? After saying, Bansho Tenin, and raising his hand to the same target once more, Naruto watched as the target flew back in their direction. Wow, these eyes are awesome. Then, while uttering the words, Shibaku Tensai, Naruto shaped a tiny black sphere in his hand and threw it into the air. Trees and large rock fragments began to feel out of the ground and fly in the direction of the ball, suddenly drawing everyone's attention. Jiraiya screamed, Cutitoffcutitoffcutitoffcutitoffcut, as he stumbled and soared into the earth's mass. Jiraiya fell face first to the ground, and then a planet the size of a lawnmower landed on top of him. Naruto swiftly dispelled the technique. As he got up and exclaimed, Tsunade has done far worse when she caught me peeking. Everyone's perspiration dropped at his misfortune. Returning to the medical facility, Tsunade exclaimed, Achoo! Hama, my pervisense is tinglinga Jiraiya. Naruto slammed his hand to the ground and exclaimed, Kachiyose no jutsu, before he was engulfed in a thick cloud of smoke. Then, with Rinnegan eyes, the three of them were standing on top of a dog the size of a gamabunta. Did I mention that it had those eyes and 3 heads? That's strange, Naruto said, closing his eyes. Son, what is it? Minato was asked. It appears that all of my summons share the same vision. It will require some acclimatization. Then, however, 3 clones with divergent gazes materialized at Naruto's side. Yep, I see through my clones too. Wow, the possibilities for that are endless. I could peek on girls at 50 different hot springs at once. Whoops, I mean that would be great for my spy network, hey haha. Hospital. Achoo. Damn it, Jiraiya. Naruto yelled, perv, Shinra Tensei, as he threw Naruto off the enormous dog. Back at the hospital. A crash as Tsunade rushed to the loud noise she heard. She discovered Jiraiya crumpled up on the floor in the debris that had once been a wall. What the? Wow, Karma loves me, she exclaimed. Jiraiya said, hey Himea, with a smile that said, oh shish. Please don't kill me. Naruto, Itachi, and Minato, who were still at home, could hear the ensuing cries. What about the chakra absorption ability you mentioned? Replied Itachi. Well, I guess use a jutsu on me? Following a series of hand seals, Itachi exclaimed, Kaden. Grand fireball technique. Before a massive fireball erupted from his mouth and headed for Naruto, who merely raised a hand in response. After colliding with him, it quickly vanished into Naruto's hand. Impressive. Then, before his hand vanished, Naruto lifted his arm in the direction of one of the targets. Then his normal hand returned, followed by a saw blade that stabbed into the target after firing. Everyone laughed when Naruto said, and there's the Naraka path, which should be able to restore someone's body to its prime. We could test that on Jiraiya since Tsunade maimed him. And finally, the human path, but we can't test that one, because it kills the victim. And the outer path, which allows the user to control life and death, but I don't intend to screw with nature like that. Good choice on that, but I have to wonder, since the dogs summon and your clones had the Rinnegan when you summoned them, will the toads have it too? Replied Minato. Itachi added, that is a good question. A tiny puff of smoke appeared as Naruto bit his thumb and performed some hand seals before slamming his hand to the ground and declaring, Kachiyose no Jutsu. When the smoke finally cleared, Gamakichi with Rinnegan eyes was visible. Whoa, everything looks weird now, oh hey bro. Hey Kichi. I guess that's a yes dad. After biting his thumb and performing the hand seals, Minato slammed his hand down to call forth Gama, who had plain eyes, and said, Kachiyose no Jutsu. Hey Minato, how's it going? Fine Gama, just testing Naruto's new eyes out. I see, the Rinnegan huh? Yep, it appears that when he summons one of you now you'll have the Rinnegan. Hama, that is a rather nice ability. Gamakichi added, yay, but it's weird at first, I'm seeing from two different angles here. As everyone laughed, Naruto said, I know right? As he stood in front of Minato's desk, Naruto asked, you called for me, Dad? Yes, since your normal team is down right now, I need you to take a team of Chunin and go scout the border of Fire Country and Kusa. We have received reports of increased traffic of Iwa shinobi within our borders. They are still bitter about the war 13 years ago and I fear they may be up to no good, replied Minato. Okay, who is the team? You will be the leader of course, along with Shikamaru, Ino, Hinata, Kiba and Rock Lee. I suppose you know that you will have to be careful because you have a target on your back just by being related to me. Yay, they all hate and fear you for winning the last war. I'll try to stay low, but what if I find intruders, am I to engage? No, not right now. Only engage them if they attack you first. Yes sir. When are we to leave? Your team should be here any minute for their briefing, then you will leave within the hour. There was a knock on the door, and Naruto responded, understood. As the door opened and Ino, Shikamaru, Kiba, Hinata, and Rock Lee entered, Minato said, enter. Shikamaru said, reporting for troublesome duty, Hokage, Sama. Minato muttered, damn you're too much like your Fathera, before informing the newly formed team of the mission. Okay guys, meet me at the West Gate in 1 hour, pack for 2 weeks. Before departing to pack, they all chanted, troublesome, yes sir. As he vanished in a flash of red light, Naruto said, well, Dad, I'm going to go talk to Sasuke before I leave since I'm already packed. See you in a week or two. Hospital in Konoha. When a red light came on, Sasuke was lying in his hospital bed, reading a scroll about the Mangekyo that Itachi had given him, and thinking about killing himself because he was so bored being cooped up in this room. Knowing that it was at least a short-term respite from the boredom, he grinned. Hey Sasuke, what's up? That, fuck off. Break me out of here, it's boring as shit, made Sasuke sneer. No can do, Aunt Tsunade said you needed to stay for a few more days. Sasuke grunted, as he started searching for something sharp enough to kill him. Just as Sasuke reached for his IV catheter to blow air into the tube, Naruto grabbed his hand and said, oh come on, it'll be okay in just a few more days. Beyond combat, a Sharingan's foresight proved useful. Sasuke laughed and stopped his suicide attempt when Naruto said, "Remember, with these, activating his Rinnegan, I can bring the dead, so if you were to have a accident in here, I'll bring you back and kill you again. 3 times. Like you could kill me anyways. Wanna find out? Any day. As much as I'd love to kick your ass, I just came by to check up on you. I've got to go on a border patrol for a week or 2. So you better be ready for when I get back." Smiling, Sasuke said, "You're the one who better be ready." "Yay right. I gotta go now, see ya Sasuke. You're the homo, bitch." Naruto knew that Sasuke's senses would be weak because he was in the hospital complaining of boredom, so he thought a small practical joke would help him feel better. Sasuke didn't notice when his Rinnegan reverted to a 3 Tomo Sharingan, slowly spinning as they said their goodbyes, just as Naruto had assumed. Naruto left his room through the door and waited a few feet away in the hallway. Naruto said to himself, "And 3 a 2 a 1 a," before hearing the words, "Ah, hell no, Naruto you bastard." Naruto's newly developed, spontaneous demonic illusion, gay viewing technique made him laugh uncontrollably. Sasuke's perspective as Naruto turned and left through the door, he remarked, "You're the homo, bitch. That's strange, he never goes anywhere on foot." Before he could give it much thought, a male doctor entered his room. "That's odd too. Tsunade and Shizune have been my only doctors so far." Once more, he had little time to think about it before the doctor gave him a spooky smile. The doctor licked his lips and stepped closer, saying, "Time for your checkup, Sasuke-kun." What is this?" Sasuke said, starting to worry. As he started massaging Sasuke's thigh, the doctor said, "Don't worry, it'll only hurt a bit." "Ah. Hell no." Unconsciously using his Sharingan to see through the low-level genjutsu, Sasuke let out a scream. "You bastard, Naruto." When he realized he had just been pranked, he let out a shout that could be heard by everyone. Naruto is back. Naruto stayed to witness the outcome of his prank before vanishing from the corridor in a flurry of leaves and making his way to the gate to meet his team. All 4 of them were already waiting for him when he got there. "All right, are you all set?" "Yes, sir." They all joined in. "All right, stop the honorific nonsense first. You all went to school with me, Naruto," he said. "Now let's go," and they all laughed before running out the gate and into the trees. The group made small talk while they ran along, which was the high point of the trip. It took them approximately 4 hours to get to the station that would serve as headquarters during the mission. The trip was fairly uneventful, or troublesome, if you ask Shikamaru. "Okay, we'll rest here for a couple of hours and then start doing scouting shifts for 4 hours each. Shikamaru, you and Hinata will go first, followed by myself and Ino, and then Kiba and Lee for the final shift." Another chorus said, "Understood." Naruto then gave one of his Hiraishin kunai to each group, instructing them to notify him if they discovered anything. He then dismissed them all for a brief rest while he went to sit down on the roof with Ino to catch up. "Naruto Namikaze, you dare not try to win me over right now. You nearly killed me, and I'm still mad at you." But Ino, "Nope. I'm sorry, Haim. Come on. Not that I was expecting to be jumped by 4S ranked criminals." "All right. Damn it, when I found out you were hurt, I was terrified." "I'm sorry Ino. Haim, I'll try to be more careful next time." "A pledge?" Naruto said, "I promise." He leaned in to kiss her briefly. She smirked and said, "Good, because I'll kick your ass if you ever get hurt again." Then, with a little more fervor, she leaned over and kissed him back. The two continued to make out for a while before Naruto ended it and got up to wake Shikamaru and send them off for their shift. After 4 days, as Shikamaru would say, "Great, this mission had been rather dull, as is to be expected from a border patrol mission, even one that is specially assigned." They hadn't seen anything interesting while patrolling for the last 4 days, but at least it gave Shikamaru plenty of time to nap, and Naruto and Ino had the opportunity to spend more time together than usual, which they thought was nice. Naruto had continued his training on a smaller scale during his free time, practicing some of his less destructive ninjutsu, like creating and dispelling his multiple Rasengan variants, and some of his new Rinnegan techniques by pushing and pulling a boulder. Shikamaru and Hinata returned to the camp at the appointed time, as usual, with nothing to report. As they started their own shift, Naruto said, "Well Ino-chan, let's get this over with." They continued as usual, sweeping over a 30-mile area for roughly 2 hours before Naruto noticed something approaching their location. As they entered a nearby small cave to investigate, Naruto whispered, "Get down, someone's coming." Naruto used his Rinnegan to see more clearly what they were up against as the chakra source approached. With 1 Jonin and 3 Chunin, It looks to be a 4-man squad. The team continued to approach until they were only 40 yards from the cave, at which point Naruto could see that they were, in fact, Iwa shinobi. I can't tell yet if they are Iwa or not, Naruto whispered to Ino, who simply nodded. Hold on, Jiro. The group's lone kunoichi said, I sense someone close by. Dude. He didn't think they had a sensor on a scouting team, so Naruto muttered a curse. Where is Keiko? The man who went by Jiro said. Naruto looked at Ino and said, stay here and remain hidden if possible. The girl closed her eyes and searched the area for a minute before he flared his enormous amounts of chakra to divert the group's attention from her. Well, you certainly made it simple. Show yourself, please, Jiro said. As he emerged from the cave, Naruto studied the 4 Iwa shinobi in an attempt to devise a plan. My goodness. Unless the second Flash himself is involved. One of the other Chunin in the group said, if we can kill you before the invasion, it will make things much easier. Well, you've learned too much. We can't let you live right now, said Jiro with a twinkle in his eye as he started going through hand seals before slamming his hands to the ground. Doden. Earth Dragon Bullet. He shouted as a dragon's head materialized and began hurling rock balls the size of volleyballs at Naruto. Using his 3 Tomo Sharingan, Naruto easily avoided every projectile before performing his own set of hand seals and exclaiming, Raiden. Lightning Dragon Missile. Then, a great deal of lightning chakra began to flow from his hands, transforming into a dragon as it raced in the direction of the Iwa group. Doden. Wall of Mud. As he completed the hand seals and slammed his hands down, one of the Chunin yelled. The wall of mud barely slowed the dragon down, giving him time to jump out of the way. The dragon then turned around and made the Iwa Nin dodge again before it vanished. Namikaze, hurry up! Display your feared jutsu for us. As he and one of the Chunin started performing hand seals, shouted Jiro, still in a fit of rage, exclaimed, Doden. Earth Flow River. As the ground beneath Naruto shifted and started to slide him in the direction of the group, the Chunin said, Doden. Multiple Earth Spears. Jiro shouted as he slammed his hands together, sending multiple rock spears flying in Naruto's direction. Seeing no other option, Naruto grinned and remarked, well, you requested it. Before he drew out one of his 3-pronged kunai and threw it straight into the air before vanishing in a flash of red, he reappeared just above his previous position just long enough to grab his kunai and throw it again, this time directly towards the Iwa group. They didn't even have time to react because there was a flash of red and the sound of 1,000 birds chirping right next to them all. Naruto grabbed the kunai and turned his body, which enabled him to drive his Chidori through the Chunin's chest, effectively blowing him in half. He then spun around and ran towards Keiko with untraceable speed before slitting her throat open with his kunai. I've got you. Namikaze! Jiro shouted as he slammed his hands down again and hurled earth spears in Naruto's direction. Naruto easily saw the attack coming and just grinned before vanishing once more in a burst of red light. When he reappeared above Jiro, he whirled around to deliver an axe kick that struck Jiro in the face and rendered him unconscious. Now that the group leader was dead, Naruto searched everywhere for the 4th member, but he was nowhere to be found and not even with his Rinnegan, so he assumed he must have seized the opportunity to flee. As Ino ran out to him, Naruto grinned and said, good, maybe now the bastards will think twice about their plans. She glomped onto him and planted a kiss on him, feeling a little hot under the belt from watching him fight. Good job Naru.kun. I've never seen you really fight before, that was amazing, she exclaimed. Before the other 4 members of their team showed up, he just gave her a quick kiss in return. As they approached, Hinata said, is everything okay? We felt your chakra flare and came as quick as possible. Yay, there was a Jonin and 3 Chunin, I took care of it easy enough. So I guess after we clean up here we can move out since we know all we need to know now. You guys head back to camp and start packing, I'll catch up. Following orders, the remaining members of the group began to return to the camp. A loud whoosh was heard as they reached a half-mile from Naruto, and they could see the forest light up behind them. They said it was a good way to get rid of evidence. Naruto caught up to them once they were nearly back at the camp. After returning a short while later, they hurriedly packed up everything they had before heading back toward Konoha.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.